those of you who listen and you don't participate, but you know, you are here night after night. People like Daphne. Listeners, what did you? I'd love to hear Daphne's voice. Jamaica us going. By the way, I want to tell you that, you know, those of you who contribute to this program, you keep this program on the air. We did find Caroline last year. Caroline, thank you. You've done well for Politics Plus. Me now go put my mouth down a ground because me no foul. A foul, I'm gonna foul wipe my mouth at ground. And what this program has become is largely as a result of Caroline. Caroline, thank you so much. Okay, you've done fantastic for Politics Plus. Me now go put my mouth at ground because me no foul. As a matter of fact, if I may say that you have put yourself out there for me. Yeah, you have been ridiculed, despised, abused, called all kind of names. And you have stuck with it. Thank you. I want to say good night to Scratchy, my brother from another mother. Pumping 17 after 7.
Just let me go.
Yeah, your reputation, your life, Miss Caroline, you've put it all on the line for Hello Neighbor. Wow, what a girl you are. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. All right, thank you. I can't pay you for the work you do, but you know, the work of the Lord is long and hard. The rewards are out of this world. You're also out of this world, you know, Caroline. Yeah, thank you. Hello, Bertie. Hi. Oh, on a Friday. On a Friday, 20 after 7, eh? Saying to you that we're celebrating 1 year in March. The show started around the 14th of March, and we found gold when we found Caroline. Thank you. That does not say that the people before did not help. People like Jamaica Girl, Philippians, yes, Philippians was with us at some time as a moderator. She. Thank you, Philippians, for your contribution. Thank you, Jamaica Girl. Well, you hang on with us too, and you did a fantastic job, Jamaica Girl. Yeah. KC, he was with us as a political forecaster. Did a good job. Thank you. Out of that into this, Dennis Brown on a Friday. I have the world, I'll give it to you. Wow. I'll give it to you. How you doing? How is Florida today? How's Florida?
Hi, neighbor. Good night.
Good night.
Very hot.
It's hot. It's hot in Clarendon. I almost said Clarendon. You are actually from St. Mary in Jamaica, are you?
Yes, neighbor.
You had a great day?
Yes, neighbor. It was a lovely day.
Yeah,
How about
earlier
you?
I don't know if you were hearing me. I was actually saying that you put so much on the line for me and for the program that I really wanted to pause to tell you that I appreciate you and the effort you make. Sometimes you hurt. I sometimes talk to you and you tell me that some of the things that people say about you, all on my behalf, because had you not exposed yourself to all of this, it wouldn't have been said. And so, I can't apologize for how others make you feel. I know you are very strong, but you're also human. And I want to pause tonight to let you know that whatever success we have had has largely been as a result of adding you to the team. And I continue to be very grateful for your presence here with us. And as we move into the second year, I trust you will stay with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you, neighbor. But as you know that I think we're doing this for a cause, and it's been a pleasure working alongside you and Scratchy, and then came Harry. And I think we make a great team, and I love you all very much, and we will continue to do what we do, for our country.
Well, absolutely. It's been a very difficult road, though, Caroline. The ebbs and webs, the deceit, the backbiting, the hypocrisy, the name calling. Oh my goodness, we have exposed ourselves to so much, and there have been times when we felt like let's not continue this. But here we are, bouncing upon one ear, giving God thanks.
Of course, but neighbor, can I tell you that very inexperienced when it comes on to being on social media like this. It's not something that I've ever done before. And you knew, I'm sure you can recall when I just started, it was the most difficult thing to get me to speak on this platform.
Can't imagine how you have grown. Yes.
I've come a long way, in a short space of time, neighbor.
Yes.
But I think I was so naive into believing that we're all one big team.
Yes.
Team Jamaica. And for me personally, neighbor, I saw us as Team JLP,
Oh, you did.
right, and the negative experiences, neighbor, it has caused a lot of mixed emotions, and
I
like
know.
you said, I have I've considered many times to just remove myself from the space.
Yes.
Because I really didn't know how to handle it. But I think I have matured in this space where I believe that, I hope I am making an impact. And if I am, I intend to continue.
Well, that is great. Great to hear you say. I should tell you that one of my listeners has just noted that his heart has just been broken because you said you love me. Hold on there for me, moderator. But Caroline, it is always good to pause and to reflect. And I'm sure over the next couple of weeks, and as we move into the first year, rolling out the first year plans, that we will do a lot of reflection, because I think, Caroline, that, and I don't want to say much, but if it is one thing that I feel that all of this have done, is that it has built resilience. And right now I am on this platform here. I don't have a page for myself. I don't even have a page for myself. I'm actually using your platform, your page, to broadcast this program. That's how supportive you have been. I remember when the page that I had was lost. I just decided that this doesn't make any sense. Why am I doing this? And I sat for the entire day very depressed because I've worked so hard to build that platform. 40,000 followers. I have so much content on there, and the potential, if I may say this for the first time, the potential was on that platform to earn. It could be monetized, and I lost it all in one go like that. And you worked with me for the entire day and helped me, gave me your page, logged out yourself, gave me your password, and said, use my page, neighbor. There are very few people in the world like you, Caroline. I must tell you, really.
Well, neighbor, if you are an amazing host.
No, please, don't take time with me.
Well, in truth and in fact, neighbor, you really are, and we learned so much from you, and I know the amount of work that you put into making this happen. And like I said, we're doing it for Jamaica. But neighbor, when you look at our listeners and how loyal and how committed they are to
Yes.
this program,
Yes.
you just can't disappoint them. If there's ever a program that we don't feel like we did our best, or we were able to, appease them, it just feels so disappointing.
Yes.
Right, because they expect so much from us, neighbor, they do. And I think they also push us to be better each and every day as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I was saying to them earlier that I'd want all of the persons who were with us from the start to be in touch with you, because we really want to involve them in the celebrations. Other people have their celebrations. We will have ours. I'm always getting myself into trouble. Oh boy, I tell you. Finally.
Finally, we get this shit.
Yes, so that they can get in touch with you, because we want to involve them in the celebrations, and some of their voices we really would love to hear. People like Widex, love to hear from him.
Definitely.
And Jamaica Princess and Daphne.
Yes, neighbor. There's so many of them. I would
So
love
many of
to.
them. Yeah.
People like CJ Fabulous.
Fabulous.
So many of them. I can't even remember the names right now.
By the way, did you listen? I did a post a post of Sandra Blue's involvement in the program last night. I have it posted on the page. Speaking about whale, speaking about shark or whale. He said, Mark Golden ugly like a whale. Oh boy, I tell you. These are fantastic people. Anyway, I was saying earlier that I have a little event this evening. So I would mind locking down at 10 o'clock.
Okay, I understand. Oh,
yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna push through. Yeah, great.
Good evening.
Bye-bye. Yes.
Good evening, listeners. Thanks for joining us again. Could you please tap and share the live? Also, remember to press that white arrow at the bottom and then that yellow circle and repost the live. And for the neighbor rights, we ask you to type in the hashtags. Have a great show, neighbor.
Yeah, all right, great. Take care later. We're together in this world. We're together in the world, all right. You're over there in Florida. I'm in Jamaica. We do this until 10. By the way, both Harry and Scratchy, they have birthdays coming up.
Yes, I fact, neighbor,
Harry's birthday is on the 25th. Is that so?
yes, next week Wednesday will be Harry's birthday, and Scratchy will be on the 6th of March.
Look at that. Fantastic. Oh, when is yours?
October.
Oh, you have some way to go. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, all right. And of course, your neighbor is way down to the end of the year. My goodness. Great.
Yes, neighbor.
All right. Bye-bye. When you drop at the JC Lodge on a Friday, Kiata, oh my girl in the Bahamas, your name Charmaine. Come in the lane, Charmaine, you're the same, eh? Oh, this is nice on a Friday. Oh.
Gonna make it up. Do you know?
Out of Jamaica into the Bahamas. Charmaine, the girl down the lane. Oh. By the way, I heard a phrase that they said, ladies before gentlemen. Ladies before gentlemen. I'm sure that Joshua knows very much about that. That they said, ladies before gentlemen. Well, there was a man who applied that theory or that argument at the bank. The man went into the bank and he wanted to draw some money from the ATM. But he was a man that lived with the principle that there's to be ladies before gentlemen. So every time he's in the line and a woman comes, he puts the woman up first and came back in the line. Well, the man stayed in the bank for the entire day. And he never got a chance to draw any money because he always put the ladies first. Ladies before gentlemen. Does that apply in the bank line? If you're at the teller and a woman comes into the line, would you put her ahead of you? Would you do that? Do we say ladies before gentlemen? Does that apply?
Whatever it takes, you gotta be my lover one.
Ladies before gentlemen, does that apply at the ATM? What about at KFC? Do you put ladies in the line at KFC? Let's jump in with the time we have. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Politics Plus podcast with your host, Hello Neighbor, and Caroline, Scratchy, and Harry. Oh, fantastic four. Four Mike, four people. Do you still have that in the society? Do you get up for a woman to sit? Do you open the door for her? Wow. All right. Mr. Julian Robinson is a man that, I have a little respect for. Julian Robinson. You hardly hear Julian in the political hosting. Seems a reasonable man. But I'm going to have to take on Mr. Robinson tonight because Mr. Robinson did something that I think I wouldn't call it dishonest, but it lacked intellectual rigor. And Mr. Robinson is a politician. So on this program, we go beyond the headlines. We go beyond the rhetoric. And we break things down for you to understand them. Mr. Robinson put out a statement today that is rhetorically flawed and intellectually dishonest. Equal rights and justice. Oh, Jesus, I tell you. Stand up now, stand up now, stand up now.
Equal rights and justice is our everlasting song. Unity and progress will make our nation strong. Stand up for your rights when you hear the bell. Stand up for justice, hear the freedom bell. Remember us the man till we serve you well. Stand up, Jamaicans, when you hear the bell.
To be frank with you, that may be the Jamaica Labour Party's anthem, but it is Jamaica's mantra. We need to stand up against misinformation, stand up against hypocrisy, stand up against a reckless opposition PNP. Hello, Diane, my friend, my sister, Diane. Oh, hello, Diane. How are you doing?
Listeners, can I ask everyone to please repost the live now, please? If you haven't done so, please press that white arrow and then that yellow circle, and then please repost. I'm looking for everyone to repost the live, please.
No, Dr. Don, no done. Dr. Don, no done. I'll get into Dr. Don later. Dr. Don, no done at all. Boy, I tell you. Oh, anyway, let's get to Mr. Robinson. Listen to Mr. Robinson. Julian is the opposition spokesman on finance.
A conversation with you about the tax that government plans to impose on sugary drinks. Now, the government has said this is a measure to protect public health, to reduce the amount of sugar, which we believe is a real issue that Jamaicans consume, because it is a real issue of non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, etc. But the way the government is doing it will not change behavior in any way, shape, or form. A flat tax on all sugary drinks will only pass on the cost to the most vulnerable. It will increase their cost of living without any attempt to change behavior. And in fact, the government plans to yield $10 billion from this, which indicates that they don't anticipate that there's going to be a fall off in demand. Now, if you want to change behavior, there are some things you can do. Put in place incentives for manufacturers to produce drinks that have less sugar content. Provide incentives for persons who have natural juices, who produce coconut water and other things, which are healthy alternatives. Put in place incentives for those. And then make a differentiation. For drinks with very high sugar content, then those are the ones you should tax, so that there's less incentive to buy drinks with high sugar content. So we believe this is purely a revenue measure and will not impact public health. But there are ways to impact public health, as I indicated, which I believe the government should enforce and should implement, so that we can reduce the content of sugar in our diet and build a safer and a more healthy Jamaica.
Now, if that is how Mr. Robinson thinks, God help us if he ever becomes finance minister. If that is how Mr. Robinson thinks, Mr. Robinson's argument is flawed, rhetorically weak, and quite frankly, he comes across as a man that is very inexperienced and lacking in knowledge. I'm disappointed in Mr. Robinson, quite frankly. I thought Mr. Robinson could do better than that. It is a most disappointing. It is not only disappointing, you know, it is distasteful. If Robinson wrote that, then Robinson should get advisors around him to advise him to, so he doesn't come across sounding so absurd. If he didn't write it, then he should fire the writer. Because anybody who wrote that, no sense. Let me break it down for you and show you the absurdities. The argument put forward by Robinson rests on two assumptions. One, that a sugary drink tax is merely a revenue grab. Two, that a modest price increase will not meaningfully influence behavior. Those are the two arguments that Mr. Robinson assumes. Both assumptions deserve scrutiny. And this is the problem with politics in Jamaica. It is full of rhetoric designed to trick people. For example, the use of the word vulnerable. Whenever you hear these terms, you note that they are really appealing to people's emotions. They're dishonest. Let us break it down a little bit and show you how Robinson has lost it. I hope the government is making note of these things and are prepared to respond, you know. Let us look at the first argument. The claim that it is purely a revenue measure. That's what Mr. Robinson is claiming. Now, if the government anticipates raising $10 billion, that projection does not prove the tax is only about revenue. So, revenue estimates are fiscal planning tools, not confessions of motives. And every public health tax, from tobacco to alcohol, generates revenue. Let me ask Mr. Robinson a question. Did the PNP ever tax cigarette and rum? Was it only about revenue? The tax on cigarette, is it only about revenue? Because no serious observer argues that cigarette taxes were introduced solely to raise funds. Robinson, your argument. No, sir. There are people in the politics, sir. No, them not thinking, man. When you tax cigarette and white rum, is that only a revenue measure, Mr. Robinson? The economic theory is clear. When you raise the price of goods, demand tend to fall. This is not ideology. It is one of the most empirically supported principles in economics. Around the world, sugar-sweetened beverage taxes have led to measurable reductions in purchases and, in many cases, reformation by manufacturers. Producers lower sugar content to avoid higher taxes. That is behavioral change at the industry level. Robinson talking nonsense, which is often more powerful than individual choice alone. So then, to say that revenue generation negates health impact is a false dichotomy. A policy can do two things, Julian, at once. It can discourage harmful consumption, and it can generate funds to treat or prevent the harm. What an absurd point this man is making. Sometimes I don't even like to discuss these things. They get me angry. Sure, because these people ought to be more a bit more sensible.
HR, the phone.
So we have destroyed the first assumption. We've destroyed that. Let us mop the floor with the second. Mr. Robinson goes on to make the cost of living argument. The proposed increase, I hear it's approximately $10 per drink that will be added. Robinson frames as a blow to the cost of living. But cost of living, Mr. Robinson, refers to essential goods. Cost of living is not about sugary drinks, a little bottle of chubby. That is, you are the opposition spokesman on finance, and you are talking about a bottle of sugary drink affecting the cost of living of the vulnerable. That economic theory doesn't, I didn't even get that in basic school. That is anyway, the cost of living refers to essential goods like housing. Is taxing sugary drink going to increase the cost of housing, transportation, staple foods, electricity? A sugary beverage is not a necessity of life. It is a discretionary product. Julian, I won't repeat that. A bottle of Pepsi or a bottle of Chubby is not a necessity. It is discretionary. You don't have to buy a Chubby. Yes? As a matter of fact, one of the things that I have decided to do over this 40 year of Lent is I have a cup of drink here. There's no sugar in it. No sugar. Yeah, I have decided that I don't want no sugar, and I'm having more water. See, I don't have to drink sugar. It's a discretion you have. How does a discretion affect cost of living, Julian? You know, they have titty. They have Titty Thursday, some place near me, and to get into Titty Thursday is $2,000. Does that affect the cost of living of the vulnerable? And when you go down to Titty Thursday, yeah, it's a lot of quote unquote vulnerable people that are there drinking Guinness that is for $700 and Dragon that is for $600 and paying to see titties, which is probably not that $2,000. Yes. Oh my! And I think if you want to touch the titty, that's another $1,000. I don't know. I've never been there. I probably I should check it out. You know, I wonder if they have it. I wonder if they're having it tonight. I probably need to go and check out that. It would be yes. Choose Jamaica, Hennessy, and all of that. Do those things affect the cost of living? This man is talking. His man is only chatting. You know, he's just having a chat. He's just having a chat. Hey, Charmaine, how you doing? Because we have limited time. If a family buys one sugary drink per day, let's say Miss Delvine Amas Pumpas. Miss Delvine Amas Pumpas have 2 children, Punsina and Ramesh. let's say a family buys one sugary drink per day. The additional cost is modest relative to the overall household expenses. How does one drink? Listen, see how absurd these people are. How does one sugary drink per day affects a household expenses? 10 Jamaican dollars. Now, if you go to any car wash in Jamaica, you can walk and pick up $200 worth of coins. People have them dash down to their car, then just the man will do the vacuum them out of the car, drop them on the floor. You could walk on the street and pick up $10 all over the place. How does $10 per drink affect the vulnerable cost of living? You tell me that. Huh? More importantly, families retain agency. They can substitute water. When I say the families retain agency, I'm talking about choice. People have choice. If you think that the $10 is going to affect your standard of living, don't buy it. You have a choice. You can substitute water. You can purchase lower sugar options or untaxed beverages, because it's not all beverages will be taxed. So the customer have an agency. They have a choice. How does that affect their cost of living, Mr. Robinson? That substitution effect is the very mechanism through which health benefits occur. The vulnerable do not need cheaper sugar. They need much better health outcomes, non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, heart diseases, disproportionately burden lower income communities. Go over Spanish Town Hospital. Julian, treatment cost is not $10, Mr. Robinson, to treat sugar or hypertension, dialysis. You know how much for a dialysis machine? Treatment cost, the loss of productivity, because when them sick, they can't go to work. Not to mention amputations, because you have to cut off the foot. Dialysis. These are the true cost of living crises. Comrades, a $10 increase per bottle pales beside the lifelong cost of unmanaged diabetes. What are these people talking about? If we are serious about protecting the vulnerable, we must ask, is it compassionate to preserve cheap access to products that contribute to preventable diseases? I think I have answered that question. There is a third. Cultural shifts rarely occur spontaneously. So when Mr. Robinson speaks about culture, those don't just occur spontaneously. They begin with signals. Legal, economic, moral signals. For example, seatbelt laws were once resisted. You remember when the seatbelt laws came in? Even Jamaica, but they didn't want to wear seatbelt. Smoking bans were once controversial. You remember Keir Starmer in United Kingdom? Today, they are accepted because the evidence accumulated and norms evolved. When you're going to talk about culture, you're talking about norms. Those evolve over time. It's not, oh, sorry for the man. Anyway, this question of prices or price is not only or the only lever of behavior, but it is one of the most effective. Even small increase influences purchasing patterns, especially when repeated over time. Okay, so taxation sends a social signal. This product carries a public health cost. This question, is common, is a common good we're talking about here, And so, Mr. Robinson suggests incentivizing lower sugar content, supporting local alternatives, and targeting the highest sugar drinks. These are not alternatives, Mr. Robinson. Julian, these are not alternatives. They are complements. Not alternatives. They are complements. There's a difference. Tiered taxes encourage reformulations. Revenue can subsidize healthier local beverages like natural juices or coconut water. Funds can support education campaign and health services in vulnerable communities. To dismiss the policy as purely revenue ignores how fiscal tools have historically shaped, Mr. Robinson, healthier society or societies. There's more. As the opposition spokesman on finance, Mr. Robinson occupies a very serious office. That makes the standard of his argument higher, not lower. If he wishes to frame the sugar tax as a cynical revenue extraction, then he should be prepared to answer equally some serious questions. Number one, if the tax raises revenue, does that automatically negate its public health purposes? Can you answer that, Mr. Robinson? Secondly, when tobacco taxes generate revenue, are they therefore not health measures? Thirdly, do you deny the economic principle that price influences demand? If so, on what empirical basis is your argument based? Again, if the government had projected lower revenue because of reduced consumption, would you then have accepted the policy as legitimate? You say it's purely revenue. So let me ask you, if the government had projected that it would be $1 billion, would you then say it is legitimate? Is your argument that a policy cannot both reduce harm and raise revenue? Is that your argument, Mr. Robinson? That the policy cannot do both things? If so, why did you tax cigarettes and white rum? Those are the questions on the revenue versus public health. Now, here is another set of questions on the cost of living. Since when is sugary beverage an essential good equivalent to rent, electricity, or bread? Since when? Since when is a little bottle of chubby equivalent to essential goods? You raise the cost of living matter. Does a $10 increase on a discretionary drink truly constitute a structural increase in the cost of living? Or is that just politically convenient, Mr. Robbins? It's just politically convenient for you to say that? How does a $10 increase on a bottle of soda affects someone's cost of living? And if they are vulnerable, why not buy it? Is a bottle of Pepsi medicine? Can it not be avoided? Do they have to drink it? And if consumption declines because consumers switch to water or lower sugar options, where exactly is the cost of living burden? Wait there. Where is it, Mr. Robinson? The cost of living burden that you say, where is it? $10? on a discretionary drink increases your cost of living? You go to KFC, Mr. Robinson? Do you go to KFC? Do you see Jamaicans in there complaining that a 3-piece meal is now almost $1,700? You know how much for a you know how much for a bottle of Guinness? You think they're drinking less? What about gas? You know how much for a liter of gas at the pumps? Do you see Jamaicans complaining about it? What cost of living you're talking about? Would you prefer the vulnerable pay less at the registry today and more at the pharmacy tomorrow? Is the PNP saying that they would prefer if the Jamaican people spend the money on at the hospital or at the pharmacy? Because you don't really pay at the hospital. That is an important question. Are you saying you would prefer the vulnerable? You love talk about the poor. And, 16 after 8, I'm going to get to that. You love talk about the poor. Would you rather the poor pay less on a sugary drink and pay more at the pharmacy? On the matter of the vulnerable, because we don't love talk about vulnerable. When Mr. Robinson invokes the vulnerable, quote unquote, does he mean their purchasing power or their health outcomes? Vulnerable? Vulnerable? Is it truly compassionate to defend the cheapest possible access to products strongly linked to diabetes and hypertension? How can you defend that? How can you defend the vulnerable and encourage them to die of sugar? Does that make any sense, man? How do you defend the vulnerable when it is the same vulnerable people you see at the hospital, amputated? You see them at the pharmacy begging money to buy medication because of diabetes, erectile dysfunction. Some of these vulnerable men are known used to their wives. Because they smoke, they drink. Right now, the Minister of Health is saying that we having a problem with our men getting our women pregnant. How do you help the vulnerable? By encouraging them to drink sugar. What an no, it's not absurd. I don't know. Who suffers most from non-communicable diseases in Jamaica? Who? Who suffers most, Mr. Robinson? Is it not the very communities that you are claiming to speak up on behalf of? I want to help the vulnerable. My God, we want to help the vulnerable. The wool is being pulled over the poor people. I don't abuse the poor people them too much, man. You use rhetoric and abuse people, and when you talk about the vulnerable and the poor, it comes across as being so genuine, like you really care. The poor people have to understand. The 1-foot man could have had his foot on and could get an erection if it wasn't the sugar. If health expenditures from preventable diseases crowd out social spending, who pays it? You don't want the government to put no tax on. But you are arguing that we mustn't tax sugar. Oh. You know, if this, according to Mr. Robbins, I'm spending a little time on it, you know, but bear with me. If this is merely a revenue measure, what is the alternative fiscal proposal to address both revenue needs and the rising health cost? Have Mr. Robinson provided evidence that the 10 billion will have zero behavioral impact? Or is that assertion rhetorical rather than analytical? The opposition is not doing their homework. The opposition is lazy. And that is the problem here. They're lazy. Is opposing every tax increase automatically good economic stewardship? Or is just reflex politics? Had Mr. Robinson sat down with a first-year student of economics at the university, he would have realized that he's not making a lot of sense here. I make a deeper point because it is fair to debate design. It's fair to debate design. It's fair to debate tiers and thresholds, exemptions. It is fair to question implementation. But to dismiss the measure as purely revenue, while simultaneously warning it will devastate the vulnerable, is logically strained. It's a strained logical argument. If it will not change behavior, why would it devastate anyone? You see the logic, how it is flawed. If Mr. Robinson is saying it will not change behavior, then why is it going to have any devastating impact? And if it does not change behavior, or if it does change behavior, then it is functioning as intended. There is a philosophical tension here. I point it out to you. Politics tempts us to speak in absolutes. That's where Mr. Robinson erred. Politics, you see, tempts us to speak in absolutes. Purely revenue. Those are absolute terms. Those are absolute terms. Crushing burden. No impact. But serious economic reasoning avoids absolutes. When you're going to reason economically, you have to weigh the trade-offs, elasticity, substitution effects, long-term health cost. The question ultimately is Mr. Robinson engaging in economics and public health evidence with intellectual consistency? Or is he playing on emotional resonance? Is he playing on the emotions when he used the word vulnerable, cost of living, or tax burden to score momentary political advantage? The stakes are much higher. Stakes are much higher. You know, in a society where the term vulnerable carries moral weight, it evokes empathy, not true? Responsibility and even urgent action. Yet, it is also a word easily deployed as a rhetorical shield. Those who wield it must be examined. Do they truly advocate for the vulnerable? Or do they merely cloak political opportunism in compassion? Is it really an argument being made on behalf of the vulnerable? Because the sugar tax debate offers a clear case. Mr. Robinson invokes the vulnerable to oppose a measure designed to reduce harm and protect the very vulnerable. He frames the argument, the modest increase in sugary drink prices, as a catastrophic cost of living burden. It's going to burden the vulnerable. Yet his argument collapses under scrutiny, because if consumption remains unchanged, no burden is imposed. If consumption changes, then public health improves, benefiting precisely those he claimed to defend. This is the hallmark, of political opportunism, using the language of care while ignoring the realities of impact. Vulnerability is not a prop to win applause. It is a condition demanding ethical action. We must stop abusing those that are vulnerable, those who are not going to think through issues, but will catch on to the rhetoric. I have one more point to make, and then I'm going to leave this. One more point. Because this has been part of the legacy of the People's National Party, They have used this rhetoric to win a lot of sympathy. But when you examine their arguments, you realize that they are really exploiting the poor. Moderator, do I have Scratchy with me? I could probably take him now and get back to him. Do I have him? Who do I have? 27 after 8 o'clock, and my time is limited. Help me out. Hello there, Scratchy. How you doing?
Blessed night, neighbor. Blessed night, Caroline, and the viewers. Good night,
Uh,
everyone.
Hey,
I-
Scotty and Harry, good evening.
I want you to deal with the politics of this, Scratchy. I want Harry to deal with the economics of it. Scratchy, this term vulnerable. They are who in the society is vulnerable. When we say vulnerable, who are we talking about?
I mean, in context, neighbor, we talk about vulnerable. Most of the time, we used to think we talk about the children, neighbor, and the elderly.
Yeah, but when Mr. Robinson used the term vulnerable, he's referring to the poor people.
Yes, in this case, it's financial ability to spend money and read certain level and stuff like that. Yes.
Yeah. Now let me ask you a real question, Scratchy. Isn't it true that we pander to this group unfairly for too long to make them think that somehow they must not accept responsibility for their own life? Because don't some of these very vulnerable people are in the KFC line more than you and I? And live and go to the top dances and wear some of the finest sneakers and Clarks.
I mean, definitely, neighbor. This is a term, neighbor, that was coined by the PNP, neighbor. Most vulnerable. This is the PNP use this term, neighbor. They prey on people, neighbor, with this term and tell people that you're most vulnerable and stuff like that. As I outlined last night, neighbor, back in the PNP time, 2015, neighbor, we had a 21% poverty rate, neighbor. We have a 8.5% poverty rate right now. So that goes to show you, neighbor, that when the PNP continues to talk about most vulnerable, neighbor, the PNP must understand that Jamaica is in a situation now, neighbor, where whatever they consider to be most vulnerable, neighbor, we know how much of those persons again.
But isn't this an absolving the very people of their responsibility and scratching? Because some of these quote unquote vulnerable people are living better life than me and you, sir.
Yeah, but these persons who you call vulnerable, who the PNP are the council to call vulnerable, neighbor, when you're going in one of these inner city communities, neighbor, these persons are the persons who have hairstyle at probably 40,000 and 50,000, neighbor. Females having hairstyle at probably 40 and 50,000, neighbor. These are females, neighbor, who can go out and go to fast food restaurants and eat. So this thing, neighbor, they're only trying to make persons look like the persons are living at a certain level. And the PNP must understand that this is not the 90s. People's life has improved massively, neighbor. And the vulnerable society of Jamaica, neighbor, has dwindled down to a very, very small amount right now. It's more the elderly persons why we more consider vulnerable, neighbor. I won't consider that of these young persons, neighbor, who bodies in the health condition where they can manage these sweet drinks or these alcoholic beverages as vulnerable, neighbor. I won't.
But if unemployment in Jamaica is below 5%, who here is vulnerable? I don't understand. Sir. A man downtown, I buy products from him in the market. And he said to me, you see the man turn up in a little piece of half asleep at panning cat, scratchy, and you look on him and you may think he's vulnerable. And the man said to me, me knows you have $700,000 in just spend buy goods. And him go sell it off by tomorrow. And him go double that the money. That is not a vulnerable youth.
Neighbor, as I said before, neighbor, that whatever the PNP used to term as vulnerable back in their time, neighbor, those persons are no longer amongst our society, neighbor. Those persons in any large numbers, where politicians need to come out and talk about most vulnerable. That term, neighbor, is old and antiquated, neighbor. Jamaica has moved away from that, neighbor.
I think so too. And so it is the hallmark, Scratchy, of political opportunism. But I think it is dishonest for you to make people feel somehow that you are looking out for them. And I think it makes them irresponsible, Scratchy. I think we need in this country to have a discussion about where does government assistance reach and stop, and where people must take personal responsibility for their lives and for their welfare and their own development, Scratch.
Most definitely, neighbor. The People's National Party must cut out this style, neighbor. Stop trying to prey on persons, prey on people's emotions and let people feel like, say, yes, the government is responsible for it to a certain level and the government is abusing it at a certain level. It is just total madness, neighbor, and it doesn't make any sense. And it's just shocking that Julian Robinson, the opposition spokesman on finance, is going to come out and make type of rhetoric and speeches like this, neighbor. It just defeat the purpose, neighbor, and it also defeat the development and the forward movement of this country.
Yeah. Now, how does $10, Scratchy, on a discretionary drink? You drink Scratchy?
Yes, neighbor.
Yeah. Now, how if I put $10 on your Guinness, will you stop drinking your Guinness?
No, neighbor, definitely.
And would $10 on your Guinness affect your cost of living?
Won't affect my cost of living in any way, shape, or form.
No, what would affect your cost of living? Really, Scratchy. Now, if your mortgage increase, your electricity gone way up, the cost of fuel that you have to use. Now, these are the things that affect cost of living, not $10 on a discretionary sugary drink.
Exactly, neighbor. $10 being placed on a sugary drink, neighbor, cannot cause an increase in the cost of living on
for
anyone.
any vulnerable.
And any vulnerable neighbor, because we must also understand in the neighbor that these sugary drinks and alcoholic beverages, neighbor, these are not the first that these items, neighbor, they are this group of items are targeted in terms of tax packages. And I can remember, neighbor, there wasn't any form of talent and tax or levied on these goods, neighbor, where we had a shortfall, that person stop using it.
Yes.
In fact, I think there's a more increase. There's a more increase in the uses of these drinks more than ever right now. Well, you never got even the rum and
because if the price goes up around back road, you know where that is?
Yeah, but yes, I know back road, but I know back road, I know Ripon Road, I know all the roads.
you know the price is there, you don't?
No, I don't know the exact price right now, but I can tell you, neighbor, that no matter the price around there, neighbor, goods and services will still be available and selling and all like hot bread, neighbor.
Yes, and the prices at back road don't affect people because of living, because it's discretionary. You buy it if you want it, you don't want it, you don't buy it.
And it's all about fulfilling the needs, neighbor. Yeah, for Jamaicans, neighbor, they will spend whatever it costs to fulfill their needs, neighbor.
Absolutely. So Scratchy, what is Mr. Robinson coming out to talk about? Cost of living for the boy. Isn't this really so embarrassing and even disappointing to hear the opposition with such very narrow analytical skills, Scratchy? That's not a poor man.
Yeah, but Mr. Robinson, again, a member of parliament, I can guarantee Mr. Robinson, neighbor, that if he should go to his constituency, neighbor, after the increase of the increases level on these products, neighbor, he's gonna still see persons in his constituency using these products, neighbor. It's not like you're gonna see persons stop using it. I am telling you, neighbor. That's why I said it last night. No matter what taxes are levied at these goods and services, neighbor, we are not gonna see a decrease in the consumption of these goods, neighbor. Persons still go to buy it. $10 will not affect Jamaicans, neighbor, upon the level where persons are saying that I'm not gonna buy this or I'm not gonna buy that because the increase of $10 was levied on it. I tell you, neighbor, that Jamaica is an informal settlement, certainly in these communities, neighbor, in terms of corner shops and stars. These persons price goods, neighbor. Even right now, I can guarantee you that the price of rum right now is above whatever it should be selling for upon a professional level or a market level. But these persons raise goods them themselves.
Yeah. Not only that, Scratchy, but in preparing for this program, I saw where Mexico, that globally sugar taxes work. In Mexico, they saw a 6% drop in sugary drink in a year. In California, nearly 10% in months. In other words, Scratchy, behavior change, and you're a man that knows this, because you have practiced much sociological work in your life. Cultural and behavioral change is not something that happens overnight, Scratchy.
Neighbor, cultural change and behavioral change don't just happen overnight, neighbor. That is why we see we're having. That's why the Jamaica Labour Party is getting so many attacks, neighbor, and so many rebuttal, because what the government is trying to push, neighbor, is cultural change and behavioral change, and Jamaicans are very hesitant, neighbor, to move forward with these changes. Yes, we see a small section of the population moving towards it, yes, and adapting the new style, yes. But neighbor, there's still a large segment of our society, neighbor, that is still believing whatever they used to get from back then, or whatever mishaps used to happen back then, or whatever lawlessness used to happen back then, neighbor. They still believe in this and are afraid, neighbor, and find it very difficult to adapt to the new cultural changes that the country is going through, neighbor, and behavioral changes. And this is what the PNP do, neighbor. The PNP prey on these persons. And I can say, neighbor, again, this is a political organization, neighbor, that touts the 400,000 that votes for them, neighbor. So I think Mr. Julian Robinson need to come clear and tell us that 400,000 persons who voted for PNP, these are the persons who you're talking who are most vulnerable, because I don't know who is most vulnerable right now, neighbor. I just can't see it.
Yeah. One of the problem I have found with my friends over at on the PNP is that political opportunism is put cross as genuine care. They always try to make it appear as if they love the poor, Scratchy. Well, how can you love the poor when you know that sugar is going to send them to the pharmacy to spend the money that them don't have, that the government have to pay for them? Hello? Yeah. I'm saying to you, Scratchy, that isn't it more expensive to pay for medication than to put $10 on a sugary drink?
Yeah, but definitely, neighbor, it is way more expensive, neighbor. A large portion, neighbor, of the Ministry of Health budget, neighbor, is going towards to treat medical condition, neighbor, or persons who suffer from alcoholic beverages and sugary beverages, neighbor. So definitely, neighbor, I would definitely say that yes, I would love for it to be for it to bring some form of changes, neighbor, as well, because I know that we might save from the health sector, neighbor. And as I said, it is much better, neighbor, for persons can save on their prescription, and persons can even put on 3-4 more lifespan on their life and live longer. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Did the PNP not tax cigarettes?
Definitely, neighbor.
No, is cigarette tax, Mr. Robinson said it's purely a revenue measure. Is taxing cigarette purely a revenue measure, Scratchy?
I mean, neighbor, it is.
Isn't the tax on cigarettes a health tax? Isn't it an acknowledgement, a disincentive for person to smoke? Why you always tax cigarette? They call it the sin tax.
Yes, neighbor, because these are products, neighbors, and services. These are products, neighbor, goods, neighbor, where the government and everyone know that these are not necessity to life, neighbor. You don't have to smoke a cigarette for you to survive, neighbor. You don't have to drink any alcoholic beverage to survive, neighbor. And you don't have to drink any sweetened drink to survive, neighbor. So definitely, neighbor, these are sin tax. These are things that you can do without. So that is why the taxes are always first thing, neighbor. These goods and services are the first government always look to tax, neighbor. Because these are things, neighbor, where you try to put the pressure on these things, neighbor, so that you can also let persons know that to try and see how best persons can prevent or stop or limit the amount of usage of these things, neighbor. So definitely, neighbor, it is a 50-50 on both.
Yeah. How are we going to impose ourselves, Scratchy, into the culture so that Jamaicans start to take their health seriously? Because what this has done, Scratchy, is open up a debate as to healthy lifestyle, which eventually is going to take the pressure off the health sector. And it is disappointing that the PNP would have missed such an opportunity to engage more in a more informed way in a discussion like this, rather than to be in the political theater trying to score political points. Very disappointing.
Very disappointing, neighbor. And I can definitely tell you, neighbor, that they are trying to score political points, neighbor. There's no political points to gain here, neighbor, because I can tell you that Jamaicans are more health conscious right now, more than ever, neighbor. So a lot of Jamaicans are more health conscious. If you look across the length and breadth of Jamaica, neighbor, you see persons now going out, neighbor, following up this whole exercise thing. You see persons jogging early in the morning. When I'm in Jamaica, I see persons out in their numbers jogging in the morning. I see persons in the night and the evening jogging, neighbor. So I think that persons are more concerned about their health condition right now more than any other time, neighbor. And Mr. Robinson rhetoric, neighbor, about just solely a revenue measure, neighbor. I can definitely tell you, neighbor, the persons understand what is going on, neighbor. Persons are also stepping away from sugary drinks and stuff like that. Persons who normally just tend to use up alcohol, neighbor, are persons who go to parties or sessions or not on a regular basis. Are persons who are just definitely habits, but are just addicts, persons who are just addicted to alcoholic beverages and stuff like that. And it's not on a large scale again to a certain level. So I think Jamaicans are more concerned in terms of their health now, neighbor. And in terms of the sugary drink, neighbor, I am definitely expecting that over a period of time it is possible we might see a decrease in the consumption of these sugary drinks.
Yeah, and sugar may be sweet on the tongue, Scratchy, but it is heavy on the heart.
Devastating on the heart, neighbor. Very devastating on the heart.
And if an opposition, let me put this to you, Scratchy, before I jump over to my brother Harry. When you listen to the opposition's rhetoric, and I checked on this today, does it suggest the opposition's policies that is how they would govern? Because if you listen to the opposition for the last 2 weeks, what do you get from them in terms of how they would be governing at this time? Is there any clues that they're giving?
Yes, neighbor. This opposition neighbor is showing me that irresponsibility at the highest level, neighbor. I can definitely see that these guys are irresponsible, neighbor. These guys are not leaders, neighbor. These guys tend to believe that, neighbor, they can just go with what people want instead of going with what is best interest of the country going forward, neighbor. And that is the reason why they are in opposition for 3 terms, neighbor. You know, any all aspect of Jamaica development, neighbor, that you can think of, the opposition oppose every single thing. If you look at crime and violence, neighbor, when the government asked the opposition to come on board and supporting crime, neighbor, the opposition came out, neighbor, and brought the government to court, neighbor, and the state of emergencies and stuff like that. When you look at the National Identification Program, a program now, neighbor, if we had that National Identification Program in place right now, the distribution of recovery funds, neighbor, would be done in a more smoother, transparent, a more formal way. They bring the government to court for needs again, neighbor. You know, so every single thing, neighbor, that has to do with the development of Jamaica, neighbor. Once there are few Jamaicans who put up any form of rebuttal to these things, neighbor, and these are persons who normally line with the opposition. The opposition come out, neighbor, and back it 100%, neighbor, and back it 100%. So I can safely say, neighbor, that from 2016 till now, this opposition has proven to me, neighbor, that they are very irresponsible. They are not good stewards of the country, neighbor. They are not good. They are not good parents, neighbor.
Is it because they are not peering their criticisms with alternative prescriptions so that we could see? Because here we are assuming, we are assuming, because we have to look at how they oppose. What do they say? For example, when they say, the government should stop taking the money from NHT and the government should not impose any new taxes. That means, Scratchy, am I not correct that the opposition policy then would be that they would borrow, because how else would they fund the recovery? So it is from their rhetoric that we can see how they would govern. I'm a little worried, Scratchy, because I've not heard coming out of the party a plan that resembles where it is that Jamaica ought to go. And I think that is the philosophical difference between themselves and the Jamaica Labour Party. It is clear where the Jamaica Labour Party wants to take the country. It's not clear where the PRP wants to take us.
PNP has no plan for us, neighbor. The PNP has no plan for Jamaica, neighbor. The PNP is all about individualism, neighbor. They only care about themselves. And we have an opposition leader, neighbor, who as the opposition leader, comes out, neighbor, and talk about only the 400,000, say that he's here representing the 400,000 persons who voted for him. So that alone show you where this political organization stand, neighbor. And based on their past behavior, neighbor, and what we know them for, neighbor, and they have shown us, neighbor, that they have not changed. Because if the government right now, after 10 years, we have given Jamaican a tax break for 10 years. Jamaicans have been free from taxes for 10 years. And if as a result, neighbor, of one of the most devastating hurricanes in the history of the world that has ever come across, neighbor, and this government is saying that, okay, this hurricane has affected us to a certain level, it is now time that we have to come to the Jamaican people and say that we're going to ask every one of us to just chip in and play our part in the advancement and the redevelopment of Jamaica going forward and the reconstruction of Jamaica going forward. And they have an opposition who can come out and say that it is madness that the government is doing. The government should not be doing this. When you look at even the drawdown from the NHT, it is the opposition that started this drawdown from the NHT. And the government is in a situation right now where the government say, all right, we have to continue this drawdown until 2031. And yet the opposition is going to come out and say, no, you must not continue to draw down this money. It should be stopped. Yeah, we just understand, neighbor, and really look at these guys, neighbor, and say that the leadership of this organization, neighbor, is wanted, neighbor. The leadership of this organization, neighbor, is lacking substance, and is lacking the ability, neighbor, the skill or the will, neighbor, to bring Jamaica to where we want Jamaica to be. The opposition, neighbor, as I often said, neighbor, these guys are still stuck in 2000, 2005. These guys don't realize up to this day how advanced Jamaica has become over the past couple of years, where Jamaica want to be and where Jamaica should be. These guys still want to keep us hostage, neighbor, and still keep us to under certain bondage where only one and few persons in our society, neighbor, can say that they have benefited or they can see changes in our life. As again, neighbor, I will say again, neighbor, 3.5% reduction in 3.5% unemployment rate, neighbor, coming from 13.5%, 8.5% poverty rate, neighbor, coming from 21%, neighbor. More Jamaicans employed right now, more than ever, neighbor. Most of the largest social programs ever in the history of Jamaicans, neighbor. I don't understand and I can't see who Julian Robinson is considering to be the most vulnerable neighbor. Because I can tell you, neighbor, that term, neighbor, in terms of financial ability, a person's ability to spend, neighbor, it is not a reality again as it was in the 1990s.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Scott, you said something there though that struck me. That somehow the PNP may be stuck in the past. I want to examine that a little bit. Are you observing that their eyes are so focused on power that the country they are seeking to govern has moved ahead and they have not seen it?
Neighbor, 100% neighbor. Jamaica is developing at a rapid pace, neighbor, and a pace that the People's National Party, neighbor, has failed to catch up to, neighbor. A pace.
In other words, their time in opposition is only spent envying the power rather than studying the nation's progress.
Envying the power, neighbor. They don't realize that the Jamaica Labour Party, neighbor, is creating behavioral changes and cultural changes, neighbor, and changing how Jamaicans see things, neighbor. And Jamaicans know that these are things that and let Jamaicans understand that these are things that we're supposed to get. This is what we're supposed to get from government. This is what we're supposed to receive from government. So when I look at the People's National Party, neighbor, they are still stuck in the past. The current leader, neighbor, the current leader is playing from the playbook of Michael Manley. No way, shape or forward. Yes, neighbor, I cannot say you cannot have respect for your past leaders, but you must understand how you're going to govern from the past with the present. If you look at Andrew Michael Lawless, neighbor, Andrew Michael Lawless was groomed, neighbor, by Mr. Siaga. But despite Andrew Lawless was groomed by Mr. Siaga, neighbor, Andrew Lawless, yes, he understands how Mr. Siaga govern and stuff like that, neighbor. But he strike a balance, neighbor. He still have his own leadership style and his own leadership qualities, neighbor. He's not just playing from the past or the old book of the Jamaica Labour Party, neighbor. Andrew Lawless has introduced this party and reinvented this political organization to a different level where Jamaicans can be proud and Jamaicans can say, yes, this guy or this government deserves the third term that they are in, neighbor. And the People's National Party, whether we want to believe it or not, neighbor, these guys are still stuck in the past. And that is why they're in opposition for 3 consecutive terms, neighbor. And I can definitely tell you that with this rhetoric continuing to come in from the opposition, neighbor, they will be stuck in the past forever. And Mr. Julian Robinson, I can tell you that you need to get a mind of your own and stop let Mark Jefferson go and lead you down the wrong path. Because I know you're someone who have better sense than this, you know. And I can tell you, neighbor, that based on what we are seeing, neighbor, over the opposition, what Julian Robinson and Mark Golden is saying, neighbor, the whole opposition is not singing from that same hymn book, neighbor.
I was disappointed myself when I listened to Mr. Robinson today, because I said to myself, did the party really sit and recognize what it is that they are putting out Mr. Robinson to say? It is just pure nonsense. It doesn't make any sense at all. And I think you have really raised a very important point here, that it appears as if the opposition is so preoccupied by power that they are not taking the time to do the research, to understand the issues, and to put in place a set of practical alternatives that they could present to the Jamaican people. Or maybe they're so focused on criticism and tearing down strategy that their language so negative.
So negative, neighbor, and all they're doing, neighbor, is creating more problem for themselves, neighbor, because I can tell you, neighbor, they will not come out of this with any form of victory, neighbor. Neighbor, gone are the days when the People's National Party, neighbor, had that all over Jamaica, neighbor, where they could come out and say anything, neighbor, and majority of Jamaicans at the time would believe, neighbor, what they are saying and work with what they are saying, neighbor. Persons, neighbor, have the ability, have the skill now, neighbor, to can look at their own personal life and judge it from the past to the current right now, what is going on, neighbor, and can make a decision for themselves and say that the opposition is lacking, the opposition is wanting, the opposition is of no substance. All the opposition is worried about, neighbor, is farming power for the political gain or whatever they are supposed to gain from their own, from a personal standpoint. Nothing, neighbor. This is a political organization, neighbor, that continues to tout and talk about the 400,000 persons that voted for them. So whenever this opposition comes out to talk about anything that has to do with the development and the welfare of Jamaica, neighbor, they're only speaking on behalf of the 400,000 persons. And Jamaica is a country, neighbor, of 2.8 million, going to 3 million. So when you have someone who's going to come out and talk about 400,000 people alone out of 2.8 million, it shows you, neighbor, that these guys, neighbor, are one-sided, and these guys are stupid, neighbor, and there are 28 stupid guys, neighbor, who don't understand nothing about governance. And I can definitely say again before I end that Julian Robinson, someone who a lot of persons, neighbor, tend to see as someone who might be the true alternative leader for the People's National Party. I can definitely say that you right now you're being Mark Golding, yes man, and you're creating problems for yourself, and you're making yourself look stupid. I can definitely also say, neighbor, that right now, not Dayton Campbell, I can definitely let Mr. our favorite politician, the Rasta man, who seeking who want to lead this organization so badly. I don't hear him come out and say anything up to now, and he's a mathematics man who likes to come out and talk about these things. But I can tell you, neighbor, he's not singing the same tune that Mark Golding and Julian Robinson are singing, neighbor. The People's National Party.
You remember he came out and asked for an increase in something to fund education, the education tax and thing, and had to withdraw it.
Exactly, because of what the leadership of that organization they put him in a corner.
Yes.
I can tell you, neighbor, that the PNP is in big problem, neighbor. Because
coming back to that, hold on. I'd like to discuss the problems they're in. Hold on, Jack. By the way, I have not heard from my friend Goffman in a while. Goffman. Moderator, have you heard from Goffman? Have you heard from Goffman?
No, neighbor, but I know he's a regular listener. I have sent him invitation to join a few times, but he's not accepting it.
I wonder why. I wonder if I could talk to Garfman or someone from the People's National Party about this statement that Mr. Robinson put out. And I'm sure that Mr. Robinson, you must have heard that we are discussing it. So you're listening. So would you want to come and share with us what you mean by all of this? Anyone from the I saw someone in the chat say we're talking.
I saw it a while ago, neighbor. I saw it, neighbor.
Why I tell you?
I saw it as well.
Yeah, would that person want to come and tell us that we're talking? I'm coming right back. Hello, Garfman. If you're on, send me a request, man, and let's talk a little bit about this. Great. He has accepted his salary now. Well, that's great. Very good, Andrew. You should do that long time.
And I would like the opposition leader to take a decrease to decrease his salary. I don't see why we're paying that guy over $20 million for now.
Okay. So this breaking here that the Prime Minister has decided that he's going to accept his salary. The Office of the Prime Minister, OPM, has announced that Dr. Andrew Holness will accept the full salary and emoluments attached to the office, retroactive to September last year. That means Dr. Holness will now earn a salary of $28.5 million. This is up from the current salary of just over $9 million. The decision was announced in a media release on Friday. According to the OPM, following careful review and internal consultations, it was agreed that the Prime Minister should accept the compensation structure previously set for the post. In May 2023, Holness declined to accept the adjusted compensation package following fierce public backlash against the salary increases granted to the political directorate. At that time, Dr. Holness noted another prime minister in the future or a new mandate may give an opportunity to reconsider the prime minister's salary. Holness led the Jamaica Labour Party to an unprecedented third term in office last September, thereby renewing his mandate from the Jamaican people. Friday's release from OPM noted that the decision to accept the full salary was taken last year after the new administration was in place. However, its implementation was delayed due to the impact of Hurricane Melissa. Parliament has since been advised to effect the change retroactive to September 2025. All right, so the change will benefit former Prime Minister PJ Patterson, Bruce Golding, and Portia Simpson. I noticed that Mr. Golding and Mr. Patterson met with him today. Yeah. Okay, so that's that.
Well done, Mr. PM.
Good evening to you, Garthman. Hello, Garthman. Well, I don't know what is happening to my brothers.
Yeah, good evening.
Garthman, how are you doing?
Not as good as you guys.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Garthman. If the sugar tax either leaves consumption unchanged or reduces it, improving the health of the very people deemed vulnerable, how can Mr. Robinson claim it imposes a burden?
Okay, so let me ask it this way.
No, man. I asked the question. Answer it. Let me ask
neighbor.
Hold on.
Neighbor, we are not in Cuba or Russia, my friend.
No, man, hold on. It's not Russia. It's Politics Plus podcast. If the sugar tax either leaves consumption unchanged or it reduces it, improving the health of the very people deemed vulnerable, how can anyone claim it imposes a burden? Mr. Robinson said it imposes a burden on the vulnerable. How does it impose a burden? And while you are thinking about that, my understanding is that an increase of about $10 would come on a bottle of juice. How does $10 affect the cost of living of a discretionary drink? A drink that is discretionary, meaning you don't have to buy it. How does imposing $10 affect the cost of living for that family?
Well, as Scratchy mentioned that in Jamaica we have 2.8 million going to 3 million people, Jamaicans. And basically, if we were to multiply the $10 times the 3 million per Jamaicans, it would create some revenue. So, I can't speak for Mr. Julian Robinson. I am not one of his technocrats, so I can't speak for the gentleman. He has made a statement, and it is just justifiable for him to clarify what he said. To clarify what he has said. I am not the person to speak for him.
This is a part. Hold on, God. This is a party you support. This is the alternative finance minister. I'm saying to you. I'm saying to you, how does $10 on a discretionary drink affect the cost of living of a family in Jamaica, a vulnerable family? $10.
Well, 10 Jamaican dollars is a nominal. It's to me
on a service or a drink that is discretionary. In other words, you don't have to buy it at all.
Well, you don't have to buy it, correct? So
$10
$10 bear no factor.
He says that it is purely a revenue. Government, and I say this with all sincerity, are you not embarrassed as a comrade? Yeah, you
embarrassed
at the type of rhetoric coming out of the party.
Neighbor,
time out,
please, time out. Neighbor, I will say this here, and I will say this now. And you can take this to the bank. Probably you could get a $10 interest on it. Whatever I'm going to say now is that, let me not say that because I don't want anyone to think differently. Well, anybody going to form his or her opinion, regardless what. But for you to ask me, if I am embarrassed, I believe you may be embarrassing yourself carrying on this conversation, frankly speaking.
Why?
You know, I mean,
No,
neighbor,
why?
neighbor,
No,
neighbor,
man.
all
No,
of
man.
this is all
I am,
politics,
no,
my brother.
Garfan, with respect. I am analyzing a
Uh-huh.
statement put out by the opposition spokesman on finance. He will speak in the national debate. He is suggesting that the vulnerable in the society are going to be burdened by a discretionary $10 on a
Neighbor.
sugary drink.
Neighbor, again, neighbor, and I will continue and I will say it again. I will be repetitious in that, neighbor. Neighbor, $10, adding on $10 to a bulla or a bun or a drink, whatever drink it is, it's a $10 is a non-starter.
You don't think Mr. Robinson know that?
Well, never. I can't tell you what Mr. Robinson knows from what he doesn't know. I am not at the pay grade to determine that. I'm not a neurosurgeon.
Then this is the type of intellectual rigor, the type of intellectual coming out of the party.
Yeah, but again, neighbor, and that is why, as your moderator Caroline says, that our headlines, I don't know if that's whatever the name is, I tend to listen and I don't participate. I have always listened and I don't participate because, frankly speaking, neighbor, these conversations and Scratchy went on with a monologue and I am just here and I sat and listened. Neighbor, frankly speaking, the conversation is a waste, straight up and down, regardless how you put it inside.
No. Hold on.
Are the statements.
Neighbor, may I please, come in for a second? Good evening, Garfman.
Hi, good evening.
Okay, so neighbor, I am of the opinion that you're badgering Garfman because you know something? Garfman is here every single night for the entire length of the show. And that must be a very good reason he has considered my proposal. So, to be honest,
No.
I'm not sure if Garfman is in opposition anymore.
No. I tell you this, Caroline, and I will say this, Caroline, as I said something to somebody yesterday, regardless if I am in opposition or regardless if I'm in government or I'm on the government side, life is transactional. And my life and others and your life and others must go on. And I have come to the conclusion, even where I sat today, for me to be concerned about how a government operates in and out, wherever, to me, and I'm being frank, it doesn't make any sense. All I can only do is try to help those around me and who I am actually obligated to do, and others that if I can find it, and that's how I see life these last days. I mean, you look at the United States, the president of the United States has lost a big one in the Supreme Court. And he's there cursing the Supreme Court. These are people that he himself nominated.
Yes, but Garfman, Garfman, come on now. It would only, we would welcome you. I'm sure you know that. So,
Well, I understand you could welcome me, Caroline. Caroline, welcoming me... Caroline, there are things that the president, the governing party will do, as done today, that I agree with them, and there are things that they have done that I don't agree with them.
What about Mr. Robinson's speech? You agree with Mr. Robinson's speech? That's what we're talking. You agree with Mr. Robinson's speech?
No, I mean, it is not for me to determine. I cannot speak for Mr. Robinson, Scratchy.
You're not speaking for him. I'm asking if you agree with what he said.
Scratchy, frankly speaking, I'm going to tell the God Almighty truth.
Yes.
Whether or not you want to believe this, yes or no, this thing about what he has said about the pressure it's going to put on the backs of poor people
Yes.
is when I get in here today is when I get home shortly. I'm early about an hour ago or so, and I tune in about for the last 30 minutes. This is where I hear it.
But earlier you said that $10 is nothing. So do you?
But that is what I'm just telling it, Scratchy. $10 is foolishness.
So that means you disagree with what I'm
And
saying.
for you guys to be carrying on this conversation and this lengthy monologue about it, Scratchy, you guys should be ashamed of yourself.
No, how should we be ashamed of ourselves when time this
Yeah,
guy is coming out
but
and
Scratchy,
speak?
you guys are Scratchy. You guys know that $10 it is utter nonsense, and you guys continue to harp and talk. It doesn't make any sense. Believe me.
This is a political representative, someone who is the opposition spokesman and finance is saying this, so we have to talk about it.
No, if you believe, Scratchy, if you believe and you know it yourself that it doesn't make any sense, you don't give any oxygen to that, brother.
No, man, I have to give oxygen to it, man. I have to voice my disgust at it. I have to voice my disgust at it.
Well, Scratchy, all you are doing, you are making Julian Robinson more relevant. Simple as that.
No, I'm not. I'm letting persons in the chat understand and know that it's madness Julian Robinson talking.
Okay, let me ask this. The government says putting on the tax and the sugary drink is a deterrent, correct?
Yes.
Okay, what if the people take the heed and they decided that I don't want to pay this $10, so we are going to stay away from that? How does the government get that money? The tax. How does the government bankroll the tax burden that they are trying to collect? How do they get that? What's the alternative?
The alternative is to take it now from the Ministry of Health because you have less persons turning up at hospitals.
All right, good. Perfect.
Hold on there, Scratchy. Listen to me. The subject that Politics Plus is dealing with tonight is a statement issued by the opposition spokesman on finance, the alternative finance minister of Jamaica. That man, Julian Robinson, is not an ordinary Jamaican man. He's making policy and speaking on behalf of the People's National Party that wants political power. And Mr. Robinson is saying that $10 on sugary drinks will affect the cost of living for the vulnerable. And he should be prepared, or his supporters or surrogate, to explain what does that mean. And Mr. Robinson is saying that it is a purely income generating thing for the government. And I want to ask Mr. Robinson if putting tax on cigarette is purely a resource option for the government. Mr. Robinson can't just put out a statement and we leave it like that, Garfman. No, that's not acceptable at all. Because if hold on. If Mrs. Favour Williams came out last year and spoke about saving $2,000 for Probox, you all had it over the media. Right? It got maximum coverage, right? And she could have been a little bit more elegant, yes. But now that Mr. Robinson is putting this on the table, that the vulnerable people in Jamaica will be affected by a $10 discretion that they have. Come on, man! Isn't that something that requires some debate?
Frankly speaking. I don't entitled to my facts, but I don't believe that entitled to be debated, to be talked about, to be honest, frankly speaking. Because right now in Jamaica, probably if you walk on any street corner, any grocery store, as a matter of fact, if you go to probably the toll booth in Jamaica, you can pick up hundreds of $10 on the ground.
I made that point at the car wash. but then it says something, Garfman. It says something about Mr. Robinson's mind. It says something about the party he represents. It says something about the type of leadership that the party would offer Jamaica, if this is how he's thinking.
You know, I could say some things, but I rather not say nothing disrespectful. But I have seen, and one of the reasons why I know this for a long time, and I have seen it. I have been around people from both sides of the political arena, and I have heard the conversation outside of politics, and I've heard conversation in the private from both sides. And when you listen to these people speak, and when you hear them debating Garden House at some point again, or in different settings, and you hear other political pundits like yourself or PMP or JLP, sometimes I often wonder, why is it that people cannot be genuine? Because it's politics, and that is how I got the phrase.
Goffman, with the greatest of respect, you are shifting the goalposts.
No, I'm not.
Shift
No,
it.
I am not shifting the goalposts.
There is one question I ask, and there's one question I want answered tonight. How does $10 affect the vulnerable cost of living? Listen, hold on, listeners, because if you're joining late,
well, your listeners are
wait
saying that I must respect myself and come down because I'm talking nonsense.
I want to have a conversation.
Hold on, Goffman. You listen to your opposition spokesman. Listeners, listen to Mr. Robinson. This is the man who wants Favor Williams' job. This is the man. Listen to him.
With you about the tax that government plans to impose on sugary drinks. Now, the government has said this is a measure to protect public health, to reduce the amount of sugar, which we believe is a real issue that Jamaicans consume, because it is a real issue of non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, etc. But the way the government is doing it will not change behavior in any way, shape, or form. A flat tax on all sugary drinks will only pass on the cost to the most vulnerable. It will increase their cost of living without any attempt to change behavior. And
there you go. It will increase their cost of living. How the dickens does $10 discretionary on a soda that I don't have to drink increase my cost of living? Isn't that absurd, man? From a man who says he wants to be finance minister. Hello?
Yeah. Oh, you're asking me still? Okay. Neighbor, again. And let me make this very clear, neighbor. $10 will not increase anybody in Jamaica, even the man who I beg you $1 or I beg you a thing out of any grocery store or KFC. $10 will not increase he or she cost of living, no way, any shape, upside or downside, whatever angle you look at it at. I mean, again, neighbor, politics is all transactional. And when you're in politics and you're on the battlefield, you have to make comments that you deem will get you the numbers at the polling station.
So Robinson is politicking. He's playing politics.
Neighbor, politics is transactional.
Well, I'm happy for that admission. But why is it that the party continues to plunder the vulnerability of the vulnerable?
Why the party continue to do that? Why, neighbor, you probably need to wait till Monday morning to call Belmont Road.
No, man.
I mean, not Belmont Road, All Up Road.
All Up Road.
Yeah.
Well, the government, I thank you for that. You're a honest man. But seriously, the party should be huddled tonight to say we need to find a different finance spokesperson. Because this one doesn't make no sense.
I hear you, but I want to say this, neighbor. You know, and today I was having a discussion with and I can say I don't think he mind common sense. He's always on you guys' platform. And when I stop and look back at this tax that the government, the measures that the government is implemented to get more taxes in the coffers, right? Like taxing the sugary drink, the concession at the airport and all of that. Good and dandy. But one mind said, I need to look at something. And I went in my drawer and look at a tax bill I pay, a property tax. And when I look at my property tax bill that I pay in Jamaica, and I paid like...
But why are we on property tax?
Hold
I'm not talking about property tax. Hold on. No, one thing you're not going to get away with tonight, I'm not in the mood for it, is changing this damn subject.
I am not changing the subject.
I'm not talking about property tax.
No, hold on, man.
Don't
please.
tell me about the property tax.
No, man, but hold on.
How is it related?
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you it's related.
You know what, respectfully, Garth, man? If you don't think that the party that you are up here speaking on,
me?
I don't
speak for the party.
This is embarrassing. That your opposition spokesman who stood up in a debate, shouting across the aisles as if to say he knows everything, and he was this smart man putting out this rubbish. If you don't think that is embarrassing for the party, then I don't know what.
Neighbor, the party don't row my boat, my brother.
I know. Well, I don't know. The party don't row my boat.
Well, I don't know.
All I am here to do is to analyze the issue. But I want my listeners to listen to him again, because they need to be exposed because they are dishonest.
The amount of sugar, which we believe is a real issue that Jamaicans consume, because it is a real issue of non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, etc. But the way the government is doing it will not change behavior in any way, shape, or form. A flat tax on all sugary drinks will only pass on the cost to the most vulnerable. It will increase their cost of living.
There you go, listeners. You make the judgment.
Well, probably if they continue to drink, if we continue to drink the sugary drink, it will increase the cost of living
at the pharmacy.
Yeah, at the pharmacy, at the doctor's office,
but Julian,
at the funeral home.
That's what. Have a great night.
No, hold on, man. But I have to ask you this. Please allow me, please.
You are going to ask me a question on this subject because I'm
I just need to make a statement, please. Just 1 minute.
No, you're paying for it.
Yeah, man. I will pay for the statement.
Make sure you know, moderator.
Let me ask this question. The government is seeking ways of means to attract new taxes in the coffers, so additional money. No country can run without money, so taxes is a must. Let us be clear on that. You don't think the government probably need to look at property tax and increase property tax to attract more money to the coffers?
I think the government can do a lot more.
And I recommend, and why I said it, when I look at taxes that we are paying, like $15,000 for a property tax for a year for a property that is an income-driven property. That is where the government need to look at, frankly speaking, and put everybody in the dragnet. And that is where the government should increase those property tax by at least 500%.
Yeah, but I think
that is weird. And I believe if the government were to go that route, a lot of people going to complain.
Yeah.
But so be it.
Time is against me though.
So be it. But increase that.
More time. Harry, good night to you. Harry. Hey.
Good night, neighbor. Good night, everybody.
Harry, good night to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, neighbor.
Do you think that there is any value, Harry, in examining the opposition, the opposition spokesman on finance statement? We are wasting time.
Neighbor, we're not wasting time, and you alluded to it when you were speaking to Garthman earlier, that Mr. Robbins is not just an average man out on the street making a random comment. He holds a position as an alternative finance minister. So whatever he says and what spews from his mouth will hold some level of weight and also will call to be held accountable. Not because you are sitting on the other side in Parliament means you can just say things without any accountability, without any clarity, and without also ensuring that you give good solutions if you are objecting. And his statement, neighbor, is one that is also misleading. I think he has deliberately tried to twist what the government has put forward in his own statement.
Yes. Now let us examine the statement in its entirety, because I don't understand why people think that no. Mr. Robinson has influence. Mr. Robinson is seeking to influence the people. Mr. Robinson is critiquing the government. Mr. Robinson is criticizing the government's policy. What he says matters. Here is what he said.
On sugary drinks. Now, the government has said this is a measure to protect public health, to reduce the amount of sugar, which we believe is a real issue that Jamaicans consume, because it is a real issue of non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, etc. But the way the government is doing it will not change behavior in any way, shape, or form. A flat tax on all sugary drinks will only pass on the cost to the most vulnerable. It will increase their cost of living without any attempt to change behavior.
No, that make any sense, Harry?
It doesn't, neighbor. It totally, in its entirety, when you hear it, it doesn't make any form of sense. Because if an increase, because we do understand a few ways in which behaviors are changed, one has to do with the financial perspective on things. Because if something gets a little bit more expensive, you will then naturally should try find an alternative, especially if you deemed this product and or service, neighbor, in this case a product, as a staple in your basket, for a better context of a word, then you're going to find the next best alternative solution. That is just how economic work, even down to the family level. So what Mr. Robinson put forward, neighbor, was just one in which he's still politicking, but he's also putting his foot in his mouth, neighbor, because what you do and what the government has done in this case has made an attempt, which was never technically done in recent times, to help and to kickstart a curving process to a healthier way. Now, whether or not it will curve it to the numbers that we would love, it is a start, right? And it is one that does two things. It helps put back in terms of, money to the budget, which is in the form of taxing. And also it makes that product a little bit more expensive, so people will find something else to purchase, which would more than likely, neighbor, in this case, be a little bit more healthier.
Right. So then, Harry, why do you think that the opposition spokesman is taking this line? If you and I can see through the argument and realize that it is at best nonsensical, how does he not see that?
Neighbor, I think he was caught red-handed in trying to do what other popular member of his party does. For example, people like Damien Crawford who can tap into sensationalism. I think he faltered in the midst of his statement and couldn't correct himself, because both in terms of when you look at how his statement started, it's polarizing compared to how it ended. So there are two opposite things he's saying to try and make one point, and it just never worked out for him, because he mentioned that we know it's an issue in Jamaica, but I don't think people understand the level of what this is. Neighbor, the number of adults, right, in Jamaica between 20 to 79 years with diabetes in 2024 is 235,600 people. Right? That is almost 1 in 8 adults in Jamaica. Right? Now, we have the 4th highest number in the region And the region also takes into consideration North America and the Caribbean. So really and truly, it's about 20 to 25 different countries, and we're fourth highest. This means we're crippling not just our productive set of people, but we're also now burdening our healthcare system, which has always been burdened, but with the increasing numbers, right? Because there's a projection here. I actually got the data from diabetesatlas.org. Anybody who wants to research it, because these aren't my numbers. And neighbor, the projection is that we're going to have almost another 100% increase by 2050, which is 329,400 according to the projections. Now, neighbor, that is something in which will actually cripple our healthcare system if we're not careful. And what the government has done has taken one step forward, something the opposition failed to have done in their tenure, because these numbers have been increasing right throughout. So, for example, 2000, we had 118,600 people. Running up to 2011, we had 258,500. And we saw where we had a little decrease because people tried to find a more healthier way. So that number reduced in 2024 to 235,600. So it shows, neighbor, that there is somewhat of a slowdown and a small correction. Now, that if we look in terms of the time period that happened, right? In the period, we had some inflation, which means things got a little bit more expensive. The correlation here is that what the government has done in attempting to make this a little bit more expensive than the norm, despite it is something you can do without. In fact, these drinks are I'll say they're more luxury thing if you want to have a little sweet tooth or thereabout. It is not something that's a necessity or a staple, as I mentioned before, in your day-to-day diet and something you'd want to have. Now, it shows here, neighbor, that in that time frame globally, when there, the recession and so on, where things were a little bit more expensive, this diabetic number went down for several reasons. One, tying into the economical factor of these things being a little bit more expensive than what people could have afforded. Now, what we deduce from that, neighbor, is that the government is also on the right track. It is doing two things. In Jamaican terms, we use one stone, kill two birds. We put money in the budget to help with our infrastructures and so on and recurring bills. And then we also try to help curb the very people's appetite for these things, right? Which also in turn helps to reduce the burden on our healthcare system and other systems as well. Now, because what happens, and I said this, it doesn't only burden the healthcare system, neighbor, but the fact that these people will also be sick, it means that this section of our demography, which should be our most productive, it means production will also be lower, which then impacts our output as a nation. So we can't just look at it in isolation. It is a conglomerate of a move from the government. But you have to understand what is being done. And I don't think Mr. Robinson wants to accept that that is the reality of Jamaica.
All right. Now, Harry, the fact of the matter, though, is that if the sugar tax either leaves consumption unchanged or reduces it, improving the health of the very people deemed vulnerable, how can anyone claim it imposes a burden? There's no burden, no, so.
There's no burden, neighbor.
Well, I tell you, I don't understand. And to make a point that the cost of living of vulnerable goes up by a discretionary drink. What is cost of living, Harry?
Neighbor, the cost of living in terms of, simple terms, is one in which we can put it down to the level of prices, which relates to, range of everyday items. That's the simplest terms it can come down to.
Say that again.
The cost of living, neighbor? The level of prices relating to a range of everyday items.
Fantastic. We could move on from this, therefore. How would you describe, therefore, in a summary, Mr. Robinson's statement?
Neighbor, it is farcical and irresponsible of him, right?
Farcical and irresponsible.
It is, neighbor, because for him to identify that this is a problem, right? And the government have put a solution forward to do two things in one attempt. And he doesn't, as the alternative finance minister, doesn't have an alternative to what is put forward, but he's out there being very critical. Makes no sense. And it is one in which is showing that he doesn't understand the reality of Jamaica, because if you're going to say it's going to put a burden on the poor set of people, is it that he knows, or he wants to say that the poor set of people, all they do is feed on things that are not good for them? And his party would have never, in government would have never done such a thing to help the very people? Because as a government, you can't necessarily go ahead and tell people what to do. You can put things into place to kind of nudge them in a different path, and that is exactly what this bill is actually doing. In fact, neighbor, the one regarding tobacco is even more serious than the diabetes, because the the truth about it as well is that the tobacco one has taken lives from Jamaica that is equaling our former murder rates, because each year, neighbor, we lose about 1,270 people because of smoking directly from tobacco, right? And these are productive people because these are adults. They still fall within the ages between 18 to 65. So this is still, again, the most productive demography in our society. When you look at the cost of illness, this is the level of burden in a neighbor it puts on the country. The annual cost of illness attributable to smoking in Jamaica each year, a neighbor, you might want to write down this number: 14,495,306,918. And I'll repeat that figure: 14,495,306,918. That is in Jamaican dollars, neighbor. That is
say the figure again. Say the figure again.
14,495,306,918. That is ridiculous for a small country such as Jamaica, right? And when we look at it, neighbor, it spreads right across both sex. 8.8% of men 15 years and old, and this is 2025 data, by the way, right? So it's very much prevalent and relevant to the argument. And 1.7% are women, which really and truly, of our adults, neighbor, again, the most productive set of people in our country, 5.2% of them are smokers, which is roughly about 209,000 people. That in its entirety is a lot to be losing out on, one, financially, and two, losing our human resource, which is our most important resource as a nation. Not just as a small member state, but overall as a nation and as a country that is looking to grow and be productive and go forward. This is a devastating figure. And it is one in which I don't think the government would have realized the magnitude of this step regarding the bill. That is why I said, neighbor, Melissa came, gave us a hefty bill. It brought devastation, but it also brought us opportunities to curve, so we build together and build better going forward. And this is one such way.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Harry. The opposition, since Melissa, have made quite a number of statements. They have had press conferences. They have had statements in Parliament. They have been critical. They have put out press releases. They have been very active on media. The rhetoric of the opposition is what we would have to assume or use to assume their policies. Now, what direction do you think the opposition would take Jamaica in, based on what you have heard since the hurricane and what you have heard over the last couple of weeks? Position the opposition for me as government. What would the people of Jamaica be experiencing and expecting from them?
Yeah, but to be honest, I think we wouldn't even be going in that direction. I think we'd be at a standstill, which is just as devastating as taking a wrong turn.
We would be at a standstill.
Definitely, neighbor. Because the truth to it is, one, they have not put forward one alternative solution to the Melissa recovery, the relief of the people, the tax bills, the way in which we should, find that deficit in the budget. These are four critical things, neighbor, and they have failed ridiculously, right? To even offer the people a half-dead solution. That is how bad it is. Not even offer a solution, but a half-dead one. One in which we can look and say, so that not really make much sense, but we see our try. Not even that was offered to the people of Jamaica. And as such, if you failed in that capacity, as Mr. Golding put it, he has been provided by the people of Jamaica with more responsibilities in opposition, right? And if that is you getting more responsibility and clearly not handling it well, then it simply means that you in government would also do the same thing. Because there's one thing about it in a neighbor, is that you don't want to share your ideas so the government can look good, but that doesn't hold up because you are the alternative party in terms of it to be government, right? You represent, in his words, a portion of, which is 405,000 strong. And you're telling me that those who would have voted for you at the polls does not deserve to hear the direction that you would be leading them to. They don't know what is the end result for you, or maybe they do, based on the culting act of how they would have voted. Now, that in its entirety, neighbor, is not somebody and is not an institution you'd want to form your administration for a government. They have not only been irresponsible with words that have come from their lips, right? They've spewed a lot of lies. The good book says lying lips are abomination to the Lord. And it is abomination to what the people of Jamaica deserves, neighbor. The standard that has been risen, right? The good governance that the people have experienced for the better part of a decade is something in which they have failed to live up to. Well, not even live up, because you'd have to be doing it to be living up to it, but fail to even match as an opposition looking to be the government. They have failed in that miserably. They have also failed in actually combating any loopholes the government would have had. They've also failed on the perception of Jamaica and its people to the global scale. Because let us not fool ourselves, neighbor. The world is watching the current administration keenly.
Yes.
And a lot of those persons, in terms of institutions globally, countries and so on, that are looking towards Jamaica and getting this right, are waiting for models. Just like how Singapore is one of the most notified countries that ran with our model and did so well. So much that they're now a hub in Asia. We have that ability. We were robbed of it for a few decades. And we're trying to claw it back, to grasp back what we lost by coming together, strapping our belts, being fiscally responsible, putting the people first at every chance the administration gets, regardless of what the situation is. Right? We've built out in being resilient, not just as a government, not just in risk management, but as a people together, understanding that this is what good administration should be. This is what good leadership is. And this is what we have not gotten for decades upon decades, which
So
has
you
set
are
us.
saying to me that in listening to the opposition since Melissa or since the election, you have not heard anything from them that is directional, that suggests how they would govern, how they would lead?
Definitely not, neighbor. What I can say for them is that I know they have an eye for money. That doesn't mean they will be good spenders of it, good collectors of it, or good distributors, which is critical because we've seen how they distribute wealth before, neighbor, and it's not something that has led us forward. And as such, them putting their quote unquote best foot forward is not even commendable in the two major things that have happened, right? Definitely not the plans after election, because they had a budget that they didn't understand how to even achieve 10% of it, much as 50%. And then sadly we got Melissa, and they're still yet to bring out that plan, Mr. Crawford. This is what, 3-4 months now past Melissa, and we're still waiting on the plan for Melissa recovery. We're still waiting on them to tell us what happened to the money that they collected on the backs of Jamaicans. We're still waiting on something definitive from them, neighbor. All we're getting is smoke and mirrors, noise and no substance. And that is why the people of Jamaica is finding it so hard to even consider Mr. Golding and his People's National Party as even a viable opposition.
No. Harry, isn't it concerning though? And I don't see you as a partisan person. I don't see you as partisan at all. But you are saying to me in truth that you don't see the direction the opposition wants to take. Do you think that they are going to eventually implode within, because they can't continue like this, Harry? Or do they need a new leader?
No, but the truth about it, they need more than just a new leader, right? And we would have spoken at length as well about it. We've given them solutions as well. Let's not forget that part, right? And our solutions are actually solutions that would help the democratic process, which then directly helps Jamaicans. So I think neighbor politics, plus it's probably an opposition right now, we could probably farm one, right?
Yeah.
Because we're looking at things, we're putting it to the people, we're informing the people, allowing them to understand and craft their own perspective on what is happening. Their lived reality, their lived experiences, putting meaning to actions that they may not have understood, so that they can either agree and apply or disagree and bring forth alternative, right? That is how you move a country forward. But the opposition themselves have failed miserably. They have an outdated ideology, neighbor, and I think they're too far back. I think they're a few decades off the ball. You know the saying, they said one is playing checkers and the other is playing chess. I think that is what is happening overall right now. And as such, the opposition, they're not on the same wavelength as to what Jamaica and Jamaicans deserve, for one, and what they're demanding, right? We've gotten a good taste as to, developments, proper investment in our country, driving us forward, crime rate going down, a lot of things happening, moving the country forward, so much so that we could still withstand a category 5, technically a category 6 hurricane such as Melissa, which we couldn't have done if we weren't doing those things in the last decade.
So do you feel, Harry? I'm running out of time. Do you feel, therefore, that in terms of continuity, that Jamaica would be better served if it stays with this administration as far in the future as it can?
Well, definitely, neighbor.
You said definitely?
They would have to, because here's why. If we look at the two parties' trajectory.
I beg you, hold on there. Harry. Did you say definitely?
Of course, neighbor.
That the people of Jamaica should continue to support this administration?
They would be.
Hold on, listen to this.
Well, neighbor, I think the starting of that has pointed out even to this tax bill in a neighbor, equal rights and justice.
Yeah.
That is what Jamaicans are
you like
getting.
you like it, sir? By the way, I hear Andre Horton. Did you hear Andre Horton, sir?
The neighbor is getting some backlash as well from his fellow party members.
And let me see if I can find it. Did you hear Andre Horton? Boy, I tell you something.
Government has
There is no way Andre Horton can remain a part of the PNP. You know, listen to Mr. Horton as he.
2%. Is this budget, as you look at it, of about $30 million, 2% of the kind of damage that we saw thanks to Hurricane Melissa, giving us 50 years, if we use this alone, as a way of paying it off? Is this about reconstruction, or is the government using Hurricane Melissa as a convenient political cover to fix the structural deficit they're already facing?
No, let's put things into context. You're talking about last year we had about a 40% fall off in GDP, which would have contributed to them not receiving as much taxes as they would have hoped for. So that's one case. The other case is that the Hurricane Melissa caused a $8 billion US damage, which the recovery also has to be paid for. So we're faced with a situation where do we borrow the entire amount and put pressure on our fiscal rules, put pressure on our fiscal stance, put pressure on the debt to GDP trajectory that we want to maintain, or do we try our best to implement some sort of short-term tax measures to cover that situation? And I think that the government cleverly crafted this particular tax revenue measures in such a way as to not to harm regular consumption of goods and services by the average Jamaican, but to deter the use of quote-unquote certain goods and services that they think are not.
By the way, I hear that the Prime Minister is going to make changes to his cabinet. I wonder if he's going to bring in Mr. Hort. but really, what Horton is doing is giving expert analysis. What Robinson is doing is being an echo chamber for the PNP, and that is disappointing. In Harry,
and you can know because both persons are both members of the People's National Party are giving a totally different perspective on the matter. One would say, Mr. Horton is actually agreeing with the government, while Mr. Robinson is totally politicking neighbor. And we need to understand that, listen, election is over. We can't politic anything right now. It doesn't hold any value. It doesn't bring any substance and hold anything, right? So to be doing this early means you're playing with the lives and existence of the very Jamaican people who the People's National Party would really hope in 4 to 5 years' time put them back there. So you can't be playing Russian roulette with the people's lives at the moment, neighbor, which is what Mr. Robinson's statement is doing. But Mr. Horton in neighbor, he had to keep on his hat. I think he was self-preserving first before anything else, because I can tell you, as a former, as an alumni of the University of West Indies, I know Monday morning, neighbor, he couldn't face his students in a lecture
without some rigorous questions that he would have to answer them.
Of course, neighbor, and he would have gone unless he's going to step away from his post. He would be facing with them for the entire year, because every lesson that is being taught in any of his economic class will draw regarding this.
That is fantastic to hear you say that. And this is where politics needs to be deciphered. This is where politics needs to come out of some of the conversation. A lot of the conversations are too political, Harry. Even those online on TikTok, you find them to be so biased on one side. They're not rigorous at all.
Definitely, neighbor. And I think those persons who have I think they're failing themselves firstly, and doing injustice to these conversations, because neighbor, in the past these conversations weren't as prevalent as they are now. The space facilitates the open discussion of these things, but it shows the lack of understanding and ignorance on the matters at hand. And it's sad that a lot of people who either doesn't read as much to understand what they're going to comment on, or even care to, because it's tribalistic holding to one perspective doesn't hold up, neighbor, because the best thing you can do is when somebody does something right, you give them credit for it because it is due. They earned it in that regard. And as such, it shouldn't be a problem for you to go ahead and accept the reality that, because neighbor, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
They don't know that. Yeah. Okay, Harry. Let's engage some of our listeners online. Moderator, in the last segment here, can we take a few comments from our callers online? Callers, myself and Harry is here. Go ahead. Come along. Go ahead, sir. Hello. Hello. No. Yo.
Hearing yo at all. We have Grandson, neighbor. Oh, Grandson is also gone.
Oh, he's also
Caroline,
gone.
we have anybody else?
All right. The lines are open. Stay with the discussion for me, listeners. Please don't take us too far out of our dialogue. But if you want to raise another matter, we're prepared to take it. Go ahead, Dyer. Hi. Go ahead with Chuck. Harry.
Chuck, you hearing us?
I'm hearing.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we're getting some feedback from Daya. Daya? Or we're not getting anything from Daya, Caroline. Yes, Chuck. Let's hear your weighing on the discussion so far, because I know you've been listening for quite a while,
Yeah, I have been listening. And Harry, I have to. I agree with your concept of what the PNP is offering to Jamaica. Right? At present, they are not putting up their hand as a viable opposition. And the truth is that no democracy can function without a viable opposition. And right now we're not getting proposal and counter proposal from them. We're not getting that you're doing X and we'll do Y. We like X, but we'll do our X this way. But we're not getting that. All we're getting is look over there. That's how we get it. And I believe that the democracy is gonna become weaker if they continue like this. Last night I was on a platform with one of their bloggers, and basically they were told that even if a leadership challenge would come from Damian Crawford, he will never get the support because Damian Crawford during Melissa actually worked closely with the Ministry of Education to get back schools on track. And for that, he's been treated as an outcast just for that act alone. Right? Work in collaboration to make smooth transition to school. He's been treated as an outcast. In fact, he was described as sleeping with the devil. That's the description is getting. So we have an opposition that is more interested in being antagonistic rather than progressive. And the democracy of Jamaica is going to become weaker if they continue on that train, Harry. So I agree with you fully that we're not being served by the opposition. People think that because they are making a lot of noise. People think that because they are making a lot of noise and you hear them here and you hear them there, that they're doing a wonderful job. No, we are not being served by them. And that's just how I see it.
Harry, you sound muffled. You sound very muffled, Harry.
Let me try connect back. Give me a sec.
Okay, you're sounding a little better now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, Chuck, is it that it would come down to, people not understanding the role of an opposition in governance, and also typically understanding the civic duties that lays at the feet of both the people and the opposition?
Lots of people today, and we have to say this all the while, that it stem back from the removal of civics from school. Lots of people, probably about 90, at least 80% of our electorate do not understand the role of the opposition. People believe that the opposition is just there to block everything. No, the opposition is there to make our democracy stronger. The opposition is there to make sure that a government cannot run free and do whatever they want, because even the greatest of government, like the Jamaica Labour Party, still needs somebody to hold their feet to the fire. Still needs somebody to offer some competition to say, you have to keep on your feet. Yes, I am here waiting to take your job. And that is where we are going now. So people don't understand. As I said, because they are making a lot of noise, people might believe that, oh, they are doing such a wonderful job. But definitely they are not.
No, I know you, the listeners, Chuck, we know in terms of where your allegiance stands, but what is it that, there's probably three things that you, being that you support the Jamaica Labour Party, who is the administration right now, but in trying to keeping a strong democracy, what are three things you would be looking for from the opposition after this debate or during this debate for the budget?
I am looking for genuine purpose, genuine alternate purpose, genuine, not just the noise, but I'm looking for genuine alternate proposal. That is why I am looking for an opposition that is gonna put the future of the country forward, not just trying to be popular, not just making popular presentation because you want to rile up the masses. Right, so we're looking for genuine proposal, and we're looking for somebody that have the future in tech. And again, we are looking for leadership quality. We are looking for leaders in waiting from the opposition, not market vendor. Not I'm disrespecting market vendor, but we're not looking for a market in the parliament. Right, so those are what I'm looking for. I'm looking for opposition to come with sound proposal. To say, yes, you are doing that, but this is what I would do. I'm looking for them not to be reckless in their proposal, as if we're going to give everybody $1 billion. That's what they have done in the last couple of, promise $1 billion to everybody. That is not planning for our future, and we're looking for leadership quality in our parliament.
Harry? Harry?
Doing good, neighbor. But neighbor, for the last couple of days, I realized your gifting has been suspended.
Yeah, it has been suspended. There, they don't allow gift on the show.
I wonder why.
Well, I wonder why. I don't know, sir. I don't know why. But be that as it may.
Mr. Selburn Cox, that is not true, sir. Everybody, the opposition leader speak during the budget. The finance opposition spokespersons finance speak to the budget. So the government and both of them have unlimited time in the parliament. Unlimited. Nobody restrict their time. So that is not a fair statement, Mr. Selburn Cox. That is not a fair statement, sir.
Now that I have you here, Chuck, let me just put something to you. And I've been trying to figure this out. The opposition has been providing leadership to Jamaica over the last couple of months, at least since the election. Before I answer that, by the way, I noticed that the Prime Minister is now taking his full salary. A comment on that?
It should not have been deferred in the first place. I have been lobbying for him to take his salary for the longest while. It should not have been deferred in the first place.
So you don't think that there's going to be any arguments here? Has the Prime Minister opened back the discussion, especially at a time when there are arguments about budgeting and shortfalls?
There was an argument when he didn't take it, so there's gonna be an argument now that he take it. It's a damned if you do, damned if you do. And the issue is that the issue is that the money for the Prime Minister's salary was put in away from day one. The Prime Minister's salary was always there. It's just that now that so you're not dipping in anywhere to find some money to give him. That was always there, right? So that's just it's just.
Do you expect though that there is going to be criticisms that he has done so at a time when the country is struggling to finance its budget?
Oh yes, that is gonna come. In fact, you're gonna hear say, oh, that's why they put on the tax so they can't pay him.
Yeah.
In fact, I guarantee you, neighbor, you're gonna hear somebody say that.
Yes.
If they don't say it already.
Yes. But then Chuck, they can expect you to respond.
Definitely. Most definitely.
I'm sure that your response is already crafted and sent to you, has it not?
For the better part of a year, Mark Woodson has been the highest paid politician in Jamaica. Taking home $25 million, while the Prime Minister was taking home $9 million. There wasn't an argument for that. So I'm ready for them, neighbor. Let them come. Let them come. I'm ready.
I know. Chuck, a comment on Mr. Robinson's statement today that $10 on drinks is going to cost the poor people to suffer. Well, he didn't say that, but he said that the cost of living, I want to quote him correctly, that it will affect cost of living. What is Mr. Robinson talking about, Chuck?
See, neighbor, the PMP have a playbook in that they try to tug at the heartstring of poor people. Every poor people, there's poor people.
That is so correct. You're so right.
Yeah, the heartstring. So even though a sugary drink where the very poor people who drink the sugary drink end up in the hospital later on with diabetes and all these things and become a burden to the health sector, even though they're still trying to tug at it, because guess what? People have a thing, but once you add the word poor people, they don't look at the facts surrounding it.
That is true.
A tax on sugary drink, a tax on alcohol, which hurt me personally, and a tax on cigarette, neighbor.
Yes.
It is always welcome because those are the things we are encouraging people to consume less.
Yes.
Less. That's what I call a sin tax. Remember, it was Dr. Tufton from 2018.
By the way, why they don't tax them the service on the road is, huh? Is that not sin?
The PMP actually put that on the table once a couple of years ago.
Is that a sin tax? Sorry, would that be a sin?
Taxing it would be a sin. Taxing it would be a sin, neighbor.
The act is not a sin. The act is not a sin.
The act is not a sin, neighbor. The act is a service. Right? The act is a service. Taxing it would be a sin.
What?
Right? But neighbor,
hold on. I don't. Taxing it. By the way, Joshua.
I'm sure Joshua would agree with
Do you agree that taxing that thing there would be a sin?
You know, the scripture says we must be quick to hear and slow to speak. I'll exercise that right now.
The highest bid of pay. Go ahead, Chuck. Wow.
Yes, man. Yeah, but that was actually put on the table a couple of years ago. You know,
is that so?
By the People's National Party. Yes. I think it was.
To tax your favorite activity?
Yeah, to legalize them and then tax them, yes.
Your favorite activity?
Put on the table. Yes. Yes, it was put on the table a couple of years ago to find a way to legalize them and then collect taxes from them. Yes, that's how, neighbor, listen. When I tell you that the PMP have no moral authority to speak on taxes, you know, because of these things, it was put on the table to find a way to legalize them and then tax them. I don't know if they would charge by the amount of stroke or what. But there was a plan.
You know that charge by how long it take you to pop?
How long it take? Yes. I don't know if that's the way, that's what they would tax, but that is it.
You take 5 minutes to pop, that's a 5,000. You take 10 minutes to pop at 10,000.
Yes. That's how they would charge.
You take 20 minutes to pop. Man would have to try pop fast.
Yeah, but this tax package by the government, I've said it to your listeners before, is very responsible. It is one of the most responsible tax package I've ever. Neighbor, I have never, and you can think back in your memory, neighbor. Have you ever heard a tax package being imposed and the Small Business Association is happy?
No, sir.
Well, they come out this time and said they're commending the government on what was done.
I heard Mr. Ralston Hyman suggesting that Mr. Damian King no sense. How did Mr. Ralston Hyman come up with that Damian King, a reputable economist across the globe, across the Caribbean?
I will answer this, neighbor.
Of the kind of damage is this budget.
Hold on. Go ahead.
That we saw thanks to Hurricane Melissa, giving us.
Hold on. Go ahead now.
I was asking neighbor, where has Mr. Ralston Hyman worked apart from a radio station owned by a PMP activist? What has his accolade? Where does he? What work has he done? What company has he worked in? Ralston Hyman is a so-called economist that can only get a job when the PMP is in power.
Let us listen to him a bit. Listen to him a bit here. Listen to him.
That's where they were in 2024, where they were this year, as well as next year. Tax revenues have been stagnating because of the stagnation in the economy. So it is clear that we need a growth strategy. Additionally, what we're seeing coming out of the revenue estimates is that the bulk of the revenues will be paid by the workers and the consumers. They're looking at 342 billion in income tax and 329 billion in GCT, 97 billion in special consumption taxes. So the bulk of the taxes will be paid by the consumers and the workers.
I heard Keenan Faulkner saying the very same thing, Ralston, that the government, he would expect that the government would be using a stimulus package instead of taking money from the workers. And the money would be better spent by the people of Jamaica than by the government.
Every sensible economists know that. So who support it don't know anything about economics.
So when name Damian King?
Come on, don't know. And then they might take advice. So them man they don't understand what I go on.
But how the man they don't understand what I go on, Chuck? They don't know nothing.
Eba, I will ask you this. The government is issuing out 500,000 so far to at least 95,000 people. Isn't that a stimulus package, neighbor?
You mean the money for the housing?
For the hurricane. Yes,
no, man, it's more. Hold on, it's more than that. It's $2 billion.
No, I'm getting to that. I'm just talking about the ones that have the NAC said them so far approved 595,000. Right. I'm not speaking of I'm speaking of just what approved already.
Yes.
So that is 95,000 people getting 500,000 to spend. Isn't that a stimulus? Majority of the person affected by the hurricane has so far been given a minimum of $35,000. Isn't that a stimulus?
That is stimulus, yes.
Two international organizations, World Central Kitchen and I forget the next one name. World Central Kitchen is doing a survey and they are giving the poorest person that are affected, they are matching the grant from the government, which means that the person that get their $35,000 will be given an additional $30,000. Another international organization is giving the student, is matching the student part benefit. So the money where they get on part, the organization is matching it.
Yes.
Isn't that stimulus, neighbor?
It is stimulus, yes.
Secondly, the government has access to $2.5 trillion to spend in the next 5 years. Isn't that stimulus, neighbor?
That is stimulus,
So out of Damian King and Ralston Hyman, which of them don't know what I'm talking about?
Well,
I am not an economist, you know, and I can come up that there are several stimulus spending going on right now. The problem with the PMP is that if it's not going directly in their pocket, they don't count it.
In their pocket.
Yes, if they cannot funnel it into their own pocket, they don't count it.
Yes. No. Finally, before you go, Chuck, the opposition spokesman, I don't get you here often, so when you come, I have so much to cover with you. Listen to one more piece of tape here. Listen to this. Hold on, turn it up.
Leadership of the People's National Party. Damian Crawford will be a contender for the leadership of the People's National Party. Damian Crawford will be a contender for the leadership of the People's National Party whenever there's a vacancy.
Chuck,
I don't think it's whenever there's a vacancy.
It will be a Crawford versus Holness in the next election. How you gonna manage?
Same way we manage with Holness versus Simpson, with Holness versus Philip, and Holness versus Goldie.
Do you expect him to triumph?
I don't think Damian is going to triumph in the party, no neighbor. I believe because there's already a campaign actively to discredit him. Even though, like I said, he was described last night as sleeping with the devil, so he has no chance. He's too friendly with
sleeping with the devil?
Sleeping with the devil. Joshua, was those exact words used yesterday? I don't remember if he was there with us. Sleeping with the devil.
I wasn't there.
All right. That's the accusation that was leveled at him last night. Damian Crawford is sleeping with the devil. All because he worked with the education ministry to get the schools open in time. That's what they said that's a downfall for him. Good governance is a discreditor for you to be a PMP leader. Can you imagine that? So there's a campaign right now by many persons on YouTube, TikTok to discredit Damian Crawford. His removal from the PAAC is also a part of dimming his light because them say chat too much and he might build himself rather than the party. So they remove him from the PAAC. Right? So there's an active campaign both inside and outside to discredit him. Will it work? It would, as normally, when it comes down to PMP delegate vote, it's money that counts. And Peter Bunting and Mark Golding are the one in the party with the money, and the money people gravitate towards him. So that is going to be the Damian Crawford challenge. He's going to need somebody rich to back him. So if he can join forces with Lisa Hanna and get some of the Burger King money, maybe it might work for him.
I don't understand the connection. Burger King?
Remember Richard Lake, they are the owners of that franchise in Jamaica. Which is Lisa Hanna's husband. They own that franchise in Jamaica. So if he can get some of that money flowing his way, it might work for him.
Yeah. No. Finally for you, Chuck.
Contributors. There's a release from
the opposition spokesman on housing is suggesting that the Prime Minister is vulgar. And that Mr. Apka Fitzenley is vulgar to be suggesting that the 11 billion drawdown from the NHT, that the government is hypocritical, it's hypocrisy, and that the drawdown should not continue because you're not building houses for the people. How you respond?
But let us discuss hypocrisy. Isn't hypocrisy the fact that you do something when me I do it, me I cuss about doing it? Is it that the definition of hypocrisy? That you set a policy in place that says the government can take some money from the NHT, and now when somebody else is doing it, you find everything wrong. When you started it, the PMP has no moral authority to speak on it. Secondly, when it comes to building houses by the NHT, Andrew Michael Holness in the last 10 years has oversaw the construction of more houses by the NHT than the PMP did in their previous 18 years in office. They have no moral authority to speak, neighbor. This administration has built more houses through the NHT than the PNP did in 18 years.
By the way, I've heard that debate. Chuck, do you have those figures? The government have those figures? Can you make a comparison?
I can make a comparison here, but I'm on the work now.
You're on the job. No problem.
I'm on the job now, but I can get those numbers for you.
It will be good if you can, in terms of how many houses have the government built compared to that of the PNP over the 18 and a half. You could work on that for me.
Definitely do that, neighbor. I will get those numbers for you.
Yeah, that is great. I don't want to keep you away too much from your work.
And neighbor, just a point of order. Even though the government takes $11 billion from it, NHT is one of the most richest in terms of asset. NHT have well over $300 billion in assets. In terms of cash, the NHT have over $14 billion in cash sitting on. There's not a thing wrong with the NHT, neighbor. The NHT is stronger than ever.
Yeah. Are you on tomorrow?
Yes, I'll be on tomorrow.
Have a great night, sir.
All right, you too, neighbor.
Cool. What one of these guys that he speaks with such passion. Real great supporter of
ideas into a song. Just describe it in a few words. Choose a style and let Mareka the Fifth.
Joshua John, how you doing, sir?
I'm well, sir. I'm well by God's grace.
Thank you. I'm happy you mentioned God's grace, because I want you to speak to me as a man that has, made your mark on theology, a subject that you know very much of, and you actually taught. Joshua, from a moral and ethical point, don't you think that politicians ought to play less politics when it comes on to vulnerable people? It personally rubs me hard how people who know better always exploit the vulnerable in the society, Joshua. And from the time of Christ, it has always been like this. The vulnerable squad. When are we going to stop it?
When the Lord returns. I think that's the quick answer. But the scripture did say, to whom much is given, much is required. What it therefore means that if you have lots of knowledge, then your responsibility is to use it for the greater good of mankind. In a nutshell.
Then when you say that a $10 addition to sugar drinks, which is a discriminate, you have a choice. You have agency. When you say that a $10 tax on that is going to affect the vulnerable and their cost of living will somehow be diminished. Joshua, the vulnerable hearing this may think, my God, this man cares about me. But isn't that nonsense, Joshua?
It is, sir. I listened to the tape that you have played from Julian Robinson. And I find it totally despicable for more reasons than one, because on one hand, he's contending in a nutshell that it is necessary, and on the other hand, he's claiming that it's not solely in relation to health. And whilst I may agree with him from that perspective that it's not solely related to health, the government's thrust towards helping people to have a healthier lifestyle is not new. This actually, if you should do the research, goes all the way back to Jamaica Moves program that was started in 2017.
Yes,
so the
a very
government,
successful
the Ministry
program.
of Health, right, the Ministry of Health has always been encouraging persons in Jamaica to begin to live a healthier lifestyle. The Prime Minister himself jogs every morning.
Hold on, Joshua. I think you make a good point, because it was under this minister that we moved from Ministry of Health to Health and Wellness.
Yes, sir.
Right. A rebranding and a refocusing on healthy lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the Minister of Health himself has now taken up, just as how the Prime Minister jogs every morning, the Minister of Health himself has been doing the same thing and also taken up riding, right? So this is not hypocrisy on the Minister of Health's part. In fact, He's living what he teaches. In fact, the drafting of Julius Cuthbert was solely with that particular focus, because as a former athlete, she would know exactly what is required to live a healthier lifestyle than the average person. And her focus is to really be focused on the wellness part of the ministry. Right? So this is not something new. The government is not trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat to try and con the people. It is part of an overall thrust. Yes, we do need more resources, and we cannot hide from that. But the amount that is being put forward is so minuscule that it really doesn't hurt very much. I mean, the only way it could hurt if we had chosen not to go that route and decided to borrow instead, because the long-term effect of borrowing, especially in the international lending environment, is usually compounded interest, which means that you borrow a certain amount now and you have to contend with two things: your ability to pay, which probably could be affected by shocks, external shocks, or even hurricane. In addition to that, the whole matter of the US dollar versus the Jamaica dollar movement, that in and of itself could put us in a greater bind. So the smartest thing that this government could have done and has chosen to do is to put on tax for a short period of time, and we must emphasize for a very brief period of time, perhaps for about the next 2 to 3 years, and then afterwards take a review and make the best decision from there. This government has proven themselves to be a caring government, and for 9 years none of that was done. In fact, we have seen tax increases over the period of time. So I'm not worried about the fact that this government is placing a tax there. They have been very straightforward. They said, in addition to encouraging persons to live a healthier life, it's also for the rebuilding after Melissa. They were very clear. They didn't hide under the table.
Sorry, Joshua, Harry, Scratchy made a point earlier that he thinks that somehow the opposition is so focused on power that they have not spent the time to evaluate the country's direction, the changes that have been made over time, where the country has moved. Because he made the point, Joshua, that the vulnerable that we are speaking about today has increased in the lesson, you know, Joshua. In Jamaica today, now, very few people could be considered vulnerable, you know. And we're talking about economically here. We're not talking about vulnerable in terms of the elderly or children. We're talking about vulnerable in terms of economic ability. Not many people in Jamaica can be categorized as that, you know, Joshua. When you look at what we call poor in Jamaica, these aren't poor people that are vulnerable, Joshua. They are making their way through.
Sir, you're perfectly correct, and let us put the theory to test. I did a little research today, and the poverty rate in the USA as of 2026 is 10.6%.
In the United States?
In the United States, the poverty rate in Jamaica.
Yeah, but then
is
you would have to look at the GDP. No, what they call it? What they call it? In terms of standard of living.
I mean, poverty rate is poverty rate, right?
Yeah, but no, it's important, Joshua, because when you look at how we measure it in different countries, the GDP, for example, what does it cost? What is the minimum wage, for example, in the United States? But I don't want to disrupt your point. Go ahead, Amik.
Right. So I also looked at Jamaica's poverty rate, which is 7.8. So ours is 7.8. The America poverty rate is 8.6%. Right? That is very telling, because we are coming from 16% down to 7.8%.
When were we at 16? When were we at 16?
2016, ironically.
Right?
Right? In addition to that, and you know what the debt to GDP was prior to that, we have also managed to reduce inflation downwards over the period of time. We are now at 3.9% inflation compared to where we started at nearly 12%, right, in 2016, right? When we look at the unemployment rate, it is just about hovering 4% from where it was. So there's, as you rightly stated, there's hardly anyone who is left out of the net now. We are considered to be at full employment compared to where we used to be, right? So when the opposition is going to be going out there trumpeting for the sake of trumpeting instead of being honest, then that is why they're constantly losing credibility. In fact, I hear the opposition talking about, as part of Julian Robinson's discourse, that why not subsidize fruit drink. Jamaica, we don't have to subsidize fruit drink. Jamaica is one of the most blessed countries in the world where we naturally have a lot of fruits. And I did a quick reference in terms of what is our fruit production, what has been our fruit production, especially up to 2023, and it's 477 tons of fruit production, right, which is a 10.4% rise or increase over 2021, right? So, I mean, even if persons don't understand what that figure means, what it simply means is that we are blessed in abundance with fruit. You don't have to subsidize any. And if somebody really wants fruit drink, they can just simply make it at home in a blender. We're not like the rest of the nation.
But aren't
So
we,
that is a
aren't we
non-issue.
also, sorry, aren't we also absolving the vulnerable, the quote unquote vulnerable, of responsibility, Joshua? We treat these people as if they are chattels, people that we can dispose of as a burden on the state. That's not how you treat people, Joshua. Shouldn't your policy be about empowering people so that they can lift themselves, and isn't this the path that Jamaica is on now? What are we talking about vulnerable? What do we really mean?
You see, the PNP wants to dumb down people, you know, and you're correct when you said that is where our policy should be, about empowerment. The PNP has no interest in empowering the nation, because the more educated the nation is, the less they can pull a wool over their eyes, right? It was the PNP that deliberately took civics out of school for that very purpose. It was the PNP that deliberately took mental ability out of school for that very reason, because the more persons can think is the less relevant the PNP is. And you know my stance on the PNP, that it needs to be disbanded and a new party formed in its place. We heard a while ago from Chuck Finley about Damien moving beyond party lines and looking at the greater good of the country, to move it forward for the greater good of our children so that they can be educated. And we see what the PNP has chosen to do, want to discard him because they see him as an enemy within, right? It is a clear demonstration that they are not interested in the greater good of the country or the education of the population.
Yeah,
because
so
again, if they're educated, they can't control them.
Yeah, the hallmark of political opportunism, you know, Joshua, is using language of care while ignoring the realities of impact. It's all about rhetoric, Joshua, and it is distasteful, you know, because quite frankly, I find it distasteful because I know vulnerable people, you know, Joshua, and I know how they are open to empathy, and how they can be abused, and I think this is abuse.
It is emotional enslavement. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah,
in other words,
vulnerability is not a prop to win applause. It is a condition demanding ethical decision, and the ethical decision is to make a decision that benefits the vulnerable. Because if they don't adjust their behavior, they have to find the money to pay for it at the pharmacy, and that becomes a greater cost on the government.
Again, the PNP does not care about the people. Their record has never shown them to be putting the people first. The only time they put the people first is in front of a speeding train.
Wow.
That's the only time that the PNP remember to put the people first. If a speeding train is coming, they'll put them right in front, right? Because the people in the PNP's eyes, we see the formation of the PNP. You've heard me say it already. When the PNP was being formed, it was the elites that originally formed the PNP. And then when they lost the first two elections, then afterwards they started changing and retooling under Michael Manley started talking about the poor. The PNP has never demonstrated that. It was the same PNP that took NHT's money and bailed out their friend Dr. Paul Robertson of the PNP. It was the same PNP that took out money and bailed out their friend Lenny Little White. Again, it was the same PNP that took out $186 billion from NHT's money, the same money that they're complaining about now. So of the $300 billion that was removed for the economy, not for their friends now, that's separate and apart. The JLP only took out $114 billion, while the PNP took out $186 billion.
Here is
Right,
how,
so
I,
who has
here's
taken
how I
more?
want to wrap up this conversation with you tonight, Joshua. The vulnerable, though, Joshua, must also be wise to the spectacle of politics. To what extent do you think that our country and those who are, quote unquote, in that group are understanding these issues more and are able to decipher the rhetoric from the clear? To what extent do you think we are transforming as a nation along those lines?
I think the Prime Minister is making a very gallant effort to try and educate the nation. We notice when he goes out to give speeches, within the last 2 weeks, I'm aware of at least 4 speeches that he has given. And each of them is a teaching expose, as it were. You know, it's trying to guide persons as to where we're trying to go and what is their role and responsibility, right? And how they can benefit from the changes that are taking place in the economy. And I think that's very good. However, the Prime Minister is just one man out of 63. Right, and I think if the PNP really means Jamaica good, as they claim, they would stop trying to politic, because an educated populace is a benefit to all, not just to some. Right?
But when you have a man like Ralston Hyman, who is by no means vulnerable, and when a man like Ralston Hyman can be out there making the statements that he's making, and when people are listening to him and thinking, well, Ralston Hyman said that, isn't this part of the complexity of the problem affecting the vulnerable? They're kind of confused.
Some will be confused, but if persons listen to persons long enough, after a while, when you talk long enough, they have an old adage that says, better to be considered a fool and keep your mouth closed than to open it and prove them to be correct. And if persons listen to you long enough and develop a certain expectations, and those expectations are unmet, right, and it doesn't materialize, after a while you start losing credibility. And I think that's the danger that Ralston Lyman kind of run. Did I say Lyman? Ralston Hyman, kind of flirt with. Because he's losing credibility. Less and less persons are believing in him. About a year and a half ago, Ralston Hyman was the first person to say after Beryl that we're entering into a recession. That never proved itself to be true, right? In fact, he didn't even say we were entering into a recession. He said we were in a recession. All of the global indicators, the agencies, the rating agencies, prove them to be incorrect. And after a while, persons will begin to realize that, hey, this man is not making sense, right? Because the people who he wants to appeal to have a little more sense. The regular man on the street, all of these jargons, these economic jargons, mean very little to them.
Yeah. How would you recommend that the vulnerable recognize the difference between those who really care, Joshua, and those who are simply spouting words? How do you think that the vulnerable should go about recognizing this?
Well, first of all, look at the record of performance.
Record.
Right? The record. Your record speaks for yourself more than anything else. The PNP has spoken loudly over the years, almost shouting from the mountaintop that they are for the poor, for the poor. But what have they done to make the lives of the poor better? The JLP has not spoken so much about the poor, but bettering your lives, which is two different information, right? And in so doing, they have matched not only words, they have not only put words out there, but they have matched it with their action. When a government can look for ways to reduce taxes, when a government can look for ways not to add any new taxes and not to increase taxes, when a government can look for ways to increase your salary 3 times in a 10-year span, and looking forward to doing it again within that same 10-year span 4 times, and you're basically getting 3.5 times what you used to get. The threshold has been increased, and more persons are working, more persons are seeing life a little better. Jobs are being set aside for a certain sector. Housing is now being set aside for those in the hotel industry. They promise you that you'll soon be able to sleep with your door open, and they have not only spoken it, but they have put their money where their mouth is by making the necessary investment for that to happen. Promising your children school bus so that your children can be safe and you know exactly where they are. Providing an app so that you can tap into these things. Improving healthcare, and not only improving healthcare, but providing more doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals. Improving and building out more hospitals and seeking to do more with that, and also providing more educational opportunities and housing accommodation, and the list could go on and on. This is an unmatched record in Jamaica. This is not just about talk, it's about performance above rhetoric, and that is what you use to measure whether someone is just talking or truly performing. And this government has an unmatched record of performance.
Well said, my friend Joshua. Take care of yourself and have a great night.
Thank you, sir. God bless you, Sir Henriquez. And headlines.
Yes, sir.
God bless.